now you are coming in loud and clear and your video is perfect.
Thank you, sir.
Very well. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, good deal.
Good morning, Eric. Just
Good
checking
morning,
real
Andy.
quick. How are
Yeah,
you?
yeah, doing well, doing well. Your video looks great and your audio is nice and clear. You hear me okay? Am I loud enough?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Good deal.
Have an awesome day.
You too. We'll see you a little later.
Bye.
morning, council members, citizens of Tampa. Tampa City Council will now come to order, February 3rd, 2022. We will have a moment of silence this morning, and then we'll be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Roll call.
Carlson.
Here.
Maniscalco. Here. Dingfelder. Citro. Here. Vieira. Here. Miranda. Here. And Goods.
Here.
We have a physical forum.
Thank you. Mr. Shelby, please, sir.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. March 20 City Council Attorney today is Thursday, April 3rd, 2022. We're here at Old City Hall, and this meeting of the Tampa City Council is being conducted with a live in-person quorum present in City Council chambers. However, in light of the COVID-19 government-issued health standards and guidance in effect, members of the public have the ability to participate virtually through video teleconferencing, referred to by Florida statutes and rules as communications media technology. The public is able to watch this meeting on Spectrum Channel 640, Frontier Channel 15, and on the internet at tampa.gov/live stream. The public has been given multiple ways to be able to communicate with City Council, and that is all set forth in the notice of the hearing, which is available on the City Council's webpage at tampa.gov/City Council, one word. Now, for those who want to participate by CMT, either by phone for general public comment or by video and audio for quasi-judicial matters, you have to pre-register for that. And again, those do require pre-registration. And please note, public, that in quasi-judicial matters, cell phones and smartphones are not compatible, as they will not allow you to share your camera when connected. You must have access to something that a tablet or a computer equipped with a camera and a microphone that enables you to be seen by video and audio. Now, if you don't have CMT and are not able to get to Old City Hall in person, you have to pre-register, but if you're able to and you want to come to Old City Hall, we do have a communications media technology on the second floor of Old City Hall where you can participate in person using CMT. And that's at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard on the second floor, and the use of masks and social distancing inside the building are encouraged. Now, Council, emails have been distributed to you relative to today's matters for your consideration. And also, Council, I would ask that you waive your rules to allow this virtual live and hybrid regular meeting. So a motion to waive the rules, please, to adopt what's in the notice.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Ms. Maniscalco has moved. Ms. Citro second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion granted.
Thank you, Council.
All right, Mr. Shelby, I guess we'll go through our agenda here, do the house cleaning of the morning with the deputy clerk.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
All right, I know we have some continuances, I know we have some withdrawals.
If we can, I believe, Mr. Chairman, on the consent docket, there's been a request to move items 20, 21, 22, 23, all related to the Pure project, to move them off the consent docket, and I believe the understanding is to place them on the agenda for discussion, and the administration had requested a time certain. But what is council's pleasure?
So moved.
Well,
Mr. Carlson, second.
wait, before,
Miranda.
if I can, with regard to the time for that discussion?
Is a time certain, the administrator asked for a 1:30 time certain, but there are a couple items that will go right before them that are very quick, but it'll be a 1:30 time certain for the Pure project.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Recognize?
if I could, I'm not going to say everything I want to say now about these items, but I would just ask that the administration consider between now and 1:30 continuing these items and coming back to us in a week with a different proposal. The community overwhelmingly is frustrated that the Water Department has not done public engagement on the original alternatives. And a year or so ago, when we approved the $650,000 for public engagement, we, city council, expected that the water department would meet with the public. Instead, they only met with 200 people. And even in a COVID environment, it's very possible to meet with more people. And that's why people are frustrated, and there's a lot of information, misinformation circulating. And so I'm not going to make a motion, but I would just ask the staff, in the interest of the community, let's do this right and do better public engagement, more robust public engagement, and listen to all the alternatives. It's too early to shortlist this without public engagement. And the last thing is, let's trust the public. The public voted us all in. The mayor voting city council was not a popularity contest. It was based on information that was presented. We need to trust the public to make their recommendations based on the information we'll present. Thank you.
Mr. Chubb, you recognized?
So before we do that, as part of the motion, 2021, 22, and 23 is to set for a time certain for 1:30 with other items you said right before then. Also, council, I believe, Mr. Chairman, you had asked with regard to 36, 37, and 38, you wanted some discussion on that.
That's
Now-
correct.
And the question that I have is, do you want that discussion after the consent dockets, or do you want that under staff reports at whatever time?
We can do it after the consent. I think that'll be relatively quickly instead of doing it at 1:30. I think we can move those right quick.
Okay, that's fine. And finally, Mr. Chairman, if we direct our attention to the staff reports, there are 2 requests for continuances. I believe they're items number 84, which is the Assistant Chief of Police is requesting that the item be continued to August 4th. And then there's the item 85, which is a request from the Planning Commission Executive Director to April 7th. So if council wants to entertain those now and decide whether you want to and what dates, and then we can take them off the agenda so that at least everybody is on notice that those 2 items, number 84 regarding the housing of sexual predators, and the other one regarding the Fort Lauderdale model incentives from the Planning Commission, those could come off the agenda and know that the public would be aware that they won't be discussed. So what's council's pleasure with regard to 84 or 85, and both? You know.
All right, motion reference to 84, 85? Motion
Does
for
it- does it
84,
council-
85 to go ahead and move.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I missed the, does he want to continue this?
84 we want to continue to August 4th, and 85 wants to continue to April 7th. Move both the items, Mr. President? All right, both the items are being moved. Second on that? Second by Mr. Carlson, all in favor?
Aye.
Any
And this-
opposed?
In my opinion, this would be the last time I would do 81 of these 2.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, then a motion to approve the agenda and addendum is in order.
All right, Mr. Maniscalco is approved. I get a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Miranda, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're open for business, gentlemen.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, there's
You're
one other thing.
recognized, sir.
I apologize, but very quickly, if there's a need for staff on any of the items, the other remaining items under staff report, we can inform the administration so that staff, if it's not necessary that they appear, that they,
All right, let's go real quickly.
Okay.
I did talk to the administration about 77. They'll come back at a later date with some of their updates. Anybody on 78 or 79? Do we need staff here? Give Mr. Dingfelder a second. I think that's Mr. Beard. I think it's a big project. I did speak with him on it yesterday with the,
which item again, sir?
that's 78, 79. Anybody need,
Let me see that.
Mr. Beard? All right, Mr. Miranda's checking this,
Yeah, I'm going to look at it.
Yes, sir.
What about 78, 79?
we're asking, do we need him to talk because that item is a...
Yeah, this afternoon, yes.
Okay. All right, Mr. Miranda wants to hear about that. All right, item number 80. I think Mr. Vieira, I think, Mr. Dingfelder, reference, you want to hear about that, sir? All right, that stays.
I'm sorry if I can, Mr. Chairman, forgive
Number
me.
80 will stay, Mr. Shelby,
Number 80 is staff requested,
requested,
and what was the answer on 78 and 79, sir?
requested.
Requested, thank you.
81. Mr. Miranda?
Did they have a memo on that? I didn't see one.
No.
Yeah, I'm
Okay, okay, no memo, so it'll stay. 80, 82, yes. 83, Mr. Dingfelder?
No,
All right.
memo sufficed.
No suffice, all right, they can be released for 83. Mr. Maniscalco, I think this is your item on the
Cameras?
cameras?
Yes, I already spoke to Parks and Rec Director, and my questions were answered, and I'll relay the information back to the neighborhood.
All
So
right.
I'm good, thank
No
you.
need for that, all right. Okay,
Thank you.
all right.
80, what do we do, 84, continued it?
84 and
84 and
85?
85 will continue.
85,
Yeah, that's the sexual predator, and the other one is, I think, a growth management issue.
and they're continuing that to the April 7th.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
We good, gentlemen?
Thank you, council.
All right, let's proceed. Item number 1, I think it's, I think Mr. Vieira's down there. Morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be here today. It's my pleasure to have with me Mr. Joshua Tannen and his wonderful mother, Karen, who's here as well. Joshua Tannen is a 34-year-old Tampa Bay area resident. His mother in 2002, 20 years ago, donated one of her kidneys to him in 2002, but the transplant failed in 2011, about 9 years later. Josh has been in desperate search for a new kidney for more than a decade right now. Mr. Mitch Perry did a wonderful story on Joshua Tannen where it was indicated that Joshua, and correct me if I'm wrong, Joshua has to undergo dialysis for about 10 hours a day because of his condition. Joshua is on a waiting list for a donated kidney at Tampa General Hospital. You can find out more information by visiting the Tampa General Hospital's Living Donor Program website. Across our country, there are 100,000 Americans who are waiting for a kidney transplant, and Mr. Joshua Tannen is one of them. And I wanted to invite Joshua Tannen to come to Tampa City Council with his wonderful mother, who did what many, many parents would do, and to speak about the need for a kidney, and just to speak to the city of Tampa and the community so that God willing, something can happen. So Joshua, come up, sir.
Thank you, Councilman Vieira. I want to say a special thank you to him for inviting me to do this. I really appreciate it. And I would like to say hello to the council members down upstairs. So my name is Joshua Tannen. I am 34 years old. I am currently on dialysis for 10.5 hours every single night, and I've been waiting for a kidney transplant for over 10 years. I have been trying so hard over the last decade to find a donor. I've even done news interviews, and I've done Facebook. I have a Facebook page. It's called Joshua's Fight for a Kidney. And I've been trying really hard to get my word out. I, unfortunately, have been unsuccessful in finding a donor. A donor must be O positive to possibly be a match. However, anybody that wants to donate that's not a direct match can still donate through this program called the Pear Kidney Exchange. So if someone were to step up and they get their blood work done and they find out that they're not a match, they can continue on in the process. And if they get approved, I would go on the list with that particular person, and Tampa General would use their computer to look for a match. So my donor would give someone else's recipient their kidney, and I would get someone else's donor. There's so many people on the waiting list right now, and we need more people to step up and to donate. So if anyone is listening to this, please consider stepping up and donate and save a life. There are many other people other than me that need heroes. So please, please step up and be a hero. Thank you again for this opportunity for me to speak today.
Karen, did you want to say something? You sure? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, if council has any remarks.
Any questions, council members?
A quick comment. Thank you for speaking here. Councilman Vieira or Joshua, please email us all the link to your campaign so that we can post it on our social media and make sure that the broader public hears.
Anyone else? Mr. Dingfelder, recognized?
Thank you. Joshua, We are all very moved. It's very rare that you'll find this group to be speechless, but we are. We're very moved by your story and your presentation and your bravery, and I assume that's your mom there, and a shout out to her as well. So good luck with that, and Mr. Carlson and the rest of us will try to get the word out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Young man, our prayers are with you. I'll make sure that my mother and her prayer warriors pray for you and your family. I know how difficult it is. A good friend of mine just got her kidney a month ago, and she had a long, long wait. So I know the challenges you're going through, and again, God bless you and your parents. Thank you, Mr. Vieira, for what you've done today.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, council.
All right, item number 2, Miss our city clerk, Miss Shirley Fox Knowles. There she is.
Good morning, Council. Shirley Fox Knowles, City Clerk. I'm here about the Equal Business Opportunity Advisory Commission. There are 3 individuals seeking reappointment, and they include Ralph Smith, Walinda McKnight Green, and Christopher Morrison. I don't know if they are here, but they are seeking reappointment.
All right.
So moved.
Move second.
All right, Mr. Maniscalco's moved it, Mr. Citro second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Shelby, recognized.
Yes, and I believe, well, I have prepared resolutions for the clerk, so the motions would be to move the resolutions.
All right, motion moved resolution. All in favor?
All right.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Motion granted.
Thank you kindly.
All right. That was quick and fast. All right, we'll move to public comment.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, you recognized.
If I can just clarify, with regard to those items related to PURE, items number 20, 21, 22, and 23, those have been moved from the consent docket and have been set for a time certain for 1:30.
That's correct.
However, those are not set for public hearing. They are legislative matters, and they were on the consent docket. So is it council's direction then for the public who are registered for those items to be able to speak now?
Yes, sir.
They should speak now.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
You recognize?
before you do, I see on the agenda it says request by the public for reconsideration of legislative matters, but I'm not really sure, because we don't do it very often, when the appropriate time for a council member to move to reconsider a legislative matter. I'll follow your lead, Mr. Chairman, or Mr. Shelby, in terms of the appropriate time for that, but I do have a potential motion.
Okay, well, we could take that up after the public comment on the agenda. Is that right? Because we take public comment, and then the space on the agenda is for reconsideration of legislative matters.
Okay, sir. All right, under your direction. All right, we'll go to public comment. All right, we have people on the second floor. And let's get them lined up so we can, I heard we have some people down there, so let's get them lined up so we can get through the public comment, because we have a lot that are on the phone lines as well this morning. Yes, sir, if you state your name.
Yeah, my name is Melvin Hicks, Mr. Gill. My comments is to you, sir, because you supposed to be the chairman. It's straight to you. You know, I got assaulted in your district a day ago, and I couldn't get the police report to do the police report right. So my comments is to you, sir, because you are supposed to be you the chairman, then you at large and all that. You the only black person that's on the city council. I don't see nobody else except you doing all the talking. That means that you're in charge, right? that tells me that you're in charge. So this is your district right here. And I've been seeing a lot of black on black crimes, but I've never seen white on white crimes lately. And you failed your city council. Well, you the chairman. You speak for everybody in city council. Since you're the chairman, you failed in your obligation to the people. And technically your city council failed too. So all the stuff that your agendas that y'all have going on and stuff like that. And I was informed too that this is a legislative branch. It's the first time I heard of that. The city council is a legislative branch. I mean, all the corrupt stuff y'all did to me and to the people, you know, the scooter gang, y'all had to agree on the scooters following me and stuff like that, lynching, a lot of stuff, sir. And you, Orlando Guilds, I saw you donate a sidewalk to a Confederate mayor. But you had supposed to spoke, but you didn't speak. Why didn't you speak? But this is supposed to be your district. Hey, I see a lot of stuff that you did to the black people, Orlando, Mr. Chairman. You did to the black community. You put Tampa like 30 years behind, and upkeep the white like 100 years. I don't understand you, sir. You the only voice for the people, the black people in the city council, but you don't speak for them, sir. I don't understand. Your actions don't. They're not lining up with what you do. And you always trying to avoid me and stuff like that, trying to do all this stuff to me and stuff like that. Your eyes are shifty to me. And you just not right, sir. You speak for the whole city council as being a racist entity. And you're a black man, but you racist to your own black people, sir. And that's what I don't understand, sir. I would like to have my police report, the right police report done right, since this is your district, sir. This is you at large, you the councilman. I would like to have the right police report done, the right facts done. But you know, I don't think I'm gonna get that opportunity. I know there's a price on my head. I mean, did the city council put it on my head? I mean, that's what I want to know. Y'all the legislative branch, so did Mr. Gills, did the chairman put a price on my head since it's his district? That's why, I mean, I want to know. You know, that's a lot I want to know, but I really don't figure it out already. But, you know, Mr. Gills, you are a direct problem to Tampa. You are a direct problem, sir. You're the only black face on city council. You are a direct problem, sir.
All right, well, thank you, sir, for your comments. You can go to the police department at 411 North Franklin Street to make your police report if you were assaulted. Thank you, sir.
Good morning, council.
Morning. Can we get the volume up, CTTV? We can barely hear it in here. You can continue, sir.
All right. Good morning, council. Good morning, Mr. Chair. My name is Jim Janecko. I'm the Secretary-Treasurer of the Florida Gulf Coast Building and Construction Trades Council. My colleagues Shay and Sean are with me. And we bring to you, recognizing you have a very busy day, we bring to you an off-agenda item that we would like to submit to council. It's a letter pertaining to the apprenticeship ordinance component of the Hannah Avenue project. We'd like to submit this document for inclusion to the city staff report that will come back to council on March 3rd regarding that project. We've registered this with the clerk's office and provided copies to each of your offices, and we bring it forward to you as council as a whole today to submit as inclusion as that March 3rd report.
All right, motion received and filed for the March 3rd report. Mr. Maniscalco has raised his hand there. I think Mr. Miranda was second. On in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion granted. Madam Clerk, you do have a copy of the, all right, we have a copy and for the record to be submitted for the March 3rd report. Anything else, sir?
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Janefo, you reckon?
Mr. Janecko and company, I read your letter this morning and Randall's letter, and I just wanted to let you know that at the end of the meeting today, when we make our motions, that's our regular practice, that that I'm going to go ahead and send your letter, my motion, send your letter to the staff and ask them to try and respond and answer to all these questions, either in writing or verbally at our March 3rd meeting.
Thank you very much, Councilman. Thank you very much.
I'm not against Mr. Dingfelder's motion, but I think it should go to the legal department because sooner or later that staff is going to take it to the legal department if all this meets the requirements.
We'll send it to everybody.
Yeah,
All right, thank you.
I think that report, everything that was last time was asked to go to legal for the scope of it, so. All right, well,
We'll just include it,
we'll
so
include
it's a
all-
comprehensive response on March 3rd.
Mr. Vieira, you recognized?
Mr. Chairman, good to see you guys. No, and I agree with, I walked in towards the end, I apologize, I was talking with a nice gentleman and his mother. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, and we've discussed this before, if we have a company that's doing something and they didn't have a state certified apprenticeship program, and then they get one, then the ordinance is working, but we gotta make sure that it's happening, especially with this project, because this is a real opportunity to invest potentially millions of dollars in training our young people through the contracting process for apprenticeships. So, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Council.
All right, next speaker.
Good morning, City Council. Joe Robinson here to talk about purified usable resources for the environment, Mr. Carson. Design, build, pure. Water, Charlie. Having served on the Northwest Hillsborough Basin Board in Swiftmore for 8.5 years, dealing with corporate funding projects for local governments, reuse projects with the City of Tampa, Polk, Hillsborough County, the SWIM project, South Tampa stormwater projects, Mr. Carson, education initiatives, Tampa Bay Estuary Program, Land, Water, UCAS Link, and Tampa Bay Partnership implementation. Charlie Miranda. Now, you know water is much more than gasoline, solar energy, and without water, there is no development. Let me just say that the Friends of the River, the Sierra Club, Tampa Bay, and the local League of Women Voters supporting this. The new state law mandating that we curb wastewater discharge. We're putting all these nutrients in the bay. We've got to come up with some innovative way. And me as a professional engineer, served on Swiftmud, dealt with water, because water is more important than gold, platinum, and gasoline right now, Charlie, and you know that. You done sat on that water board of Tampa Bay Water. You are Mr. Water. Done been over there with you, seeing what you're doing and fighting. So we need to go ahead and move the needle forward. See, this ain't the time to play with, oh, we got to bid out this, that. No, you need to be worrying about handling with that. This you need to be worrying about, because this is a natural resource. It's limited. That's California. They love to have these 50, 60 million gallons a day. So we need to come real and make sure that we give the city a chance, because fortune favors the brave. Be brave on this. And they're not doing it wholesale. They're doing it at little, small bites of the apple. They're not trying to do it all at once, and they're taking their time and doing it right. So I'm here to say that I support it because I reclaim water, reuse water, whatever you want to call it. And Charlie, you know what I'm saying. We need to make sure that we take this valuable resource that we already got, that we got to deal something with. This ain't something we had to pump out the ground. This is taking water that's been used and putting it for a better use. And Mr. Carson, you already using it because South Tampa is the only place got reclaimed water. I ain't got it in West Tampa. See, this is what I'm saying. When we did that at Swiftmore, we put it in South Tampa. So y'all been using water for years. It started out free, right, Charlie? And then we started putting a meter on it. So, Mr. Miranda, I hope that you stand the guns and show that the city needs this done. We don't need to go at it at a big bite. We need to go at it at a reasonable bite. But I'm here to say I support moving this environmental initiative forward. This can help the city. We're a region. We're growing. Without water, growth is dead. So once again, I'm going to say, City Council, fortune favors the brave. Be brave and do something that makes sense. And all your environmental people, including Joe Robinson, say, give it a chance.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson.
Thank you.
good morning, City Council.
Morning.
I'm here in opposition to items 20, 21, 22, and 23. I am a long life resident of the city of Tampa, and we don't have a need for this proposal. We have plenty of water in Tampa. We have Hillsborough River, we have lakes, we have springs, and $2.1 billion is a lot of money, of taxpayer money. Wastewater in our drinking water could cause sickness and disease. What about antibiotic resistant bacteria getting in our drinking water? Is the city going to be liable for that? How would this affect our aquifer? And would it cause any probability of sinkholes? I don't think the public knows very much about what's going on, and I believe there needs to be more research. We have sufficient rain in Tampa. I've been here all my life, and we have our monsoon rains. There was only maybe 1 year we had a little bit less rain, but we've always had rain. This is Florida. Okay, and another thing that I wanted to say is, I know you all have been talking about, you know, rents going up and affordable housing, but you keep raising our taxes. I mean, right in the middle of a pandemic, Hillsborough County raised property taxes, our water rates went up, our insurance rates went up, and how do you expect landlords who have mortgages and have maintenance fees and everything to survive without raising their prices? Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hello, my name's Nancy Stevens. I'm addressing items 20 to 23, pure funding. Safe, affordable drinking water is a basic right. A healthy river, aquifer, and Tampa Bay estuary are essential. TAP did not provide those things. It didn't include treatments to make water safe. TAP seemed to be an expensive infrastructure design looking for an excuse to exist. Then in 2020, TAP was slightly modified, marketed as helping the environment, and using the excuse of Florida legislation was renamed Pure. This is San Diego.
Ms. Stevens, can I interrupt you for 1 second? Are you speaking on personally or on behalf of the organization, and if you could clarify?
I'm a member of the Sierra Club. I've been working with the city for a year, and I'm speaking, these comments are my personal comments.
Okay, that's fine.
In line with Sierra Club.
Thank you.
Can you see this graphic? Okay, here's.
The overhead, please.
Yeah, this is San Diego.
Excuse me, just a minute. If you could hold her time until it comes up, please.
Okay.
There we go. Thank you.
There we go. So San Diego, you can see, is underneath the City of Tampa logo. So it's not Tampa, that's San Diego. San Diego goes dry. It pipes in more than 80% of its water. To get their own water supply, they've built 9 reservoirs, have a purple pipe system, and are now just installing a potable reuse system for their drinking water. Their Pure started in 2004 with a City Council resolution and a project, and I quote, to conduct an impartial, balanced, comprehensive, and science-based study of all recycled water opportunities to the City of San Diego can meet current and future water needs. They did extensive public research from the start. After years of studies, outside experts, public opinion surveys, prototypes, documentation, the system was designed. Now, 18 years later, it's being installed. Oops. I have another. Okay, here we go. This is Tampa. You can see Tampa in the middle. We are fortunate to have a river running through our city, a river that exists because its headwaters have been preserved by regional conservation efforts. Looking at this, I think Tampa citizens have a right to ask, why do we need more water? Why is the city saying we should drink wastewater? Where's the city's analysis of Tampa's water needs and impartial, balanced, comprehensive, and science-based study of all recycled water opportunities? Last year, a group of citizens that I was a part of saw dangers in the TAP proposal. We've spent hundreds of hours trying to redirect the city's efforts from ramming TAP down our throats to working on defining Tampa's water needs and developing solutions. We've generated pages of issues and concerns with TAP. A scientific panel the city hired last spring, at our recommendation, said there's a lot of work yet to be done to understand TAP and make sure it's safe. This work has not been done. The alternatives analysis showed multiple solutions cheaper than TAP that can help meet Tampa's water needs. They've not been discussed with the public. This funding, if approved, must be used to share multiple TAP Pure options and costs with the public. including exploring regional solutions for our water, maybe adding reservoirs, expanding purple pipes. And address issues and concerns such as why would we store wastewater right under Tampa? What if we conserve more? I'm hopeful that Pure will go beyond TAP and listen to and address public concerns and provide new answers. Thank you.
Ms. Stevens, Ms. Stevens, can I just ask you a quick question? You probably spent more time talking to city staff than anybody outside the city. And before that, Dina Levengood, who you stepped into her big shoes, you described the criteria that was passed by City Council in 2004 in San Diego about, I forgot the words, transparency and objectivity, et cetera. Tell me if you don't want to answer this, but what's your honest opinion, your personal opinion on the process that we've gone through to date? And then looking forward, what does the city need to do to meet the same criteria that of objectivity that San Diego did?
I think the city needs to start and do that. Start at the beginning. Why do we need the water? What are all the options for recycled water? And explain that to the public, and then do some public outreach, get feedback, and then at that point come back to a design. That's what San Diego did. That's a scientific project. That's what the scientific panel recommended, that we go back and do a process that does step-by-step scientific analysis of what we need.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rod Gadan, 3106 West Braddock Street, Tampa. I come to you today in regards to property homestead tax and its inequities. Is it fair that some of you, I gave my copy of my report to, some of you received a small lollipop, some received a large lollipop? Back when President Lincoln enacted the Homestead Act in 1862, it allowed blacks, women, and poor the opportunity to homestead their property. These folks were taxed the same as the plantation owners and all other property owners. Today, the blacks, the women, the single parents, Social Security recipients, and the poor are discriminated against by overtaxing the home they live in because they cannot afford to buy it. Can any of you justify why the homes they live in are taxed double or even 3 times more than the homes that you and I live in? These folks do not receive any more city council services than we do. Is that really fair? The property tax on their rental homes increases 10% a year. It is a fact. A property owner passes that 10% a year tax on to the renters. In the past 10 years, all the above folks have had their rents increase 50 to 100%. How many of you have had your mortgage increase 100%? Not many of us have had their incomes increase even 20%. Just Just a note, renters were averaging $800 to $900 a month rent. Today, it's $1,500 to $2,000. Is that really fair? Florida homestead laws have made a full circle of the Homestead Act. Today, rental homes are a very large percentage of this city's residential living. Florida homestead laws basically apply when you, as the resident, with the intent to make your home your permanent residence. The majority of the above citizens can meet every qualification to homestead with only one. In order to be eligible to homestead, you must own your property. Renters may not own or can even afford to own the house they live in. However, that house is their home. The current property tax laws are taking away American dreams of owning a home for many middle-class, senior citizens, and minimum wage earners. A total contrast to what President Lincoln enacted in 1862. Ladies and gentlemen, I asked you to initiate whatever it takes to reform Florida's homestead laws to stop this gross injustice and discrimination and make it equal in tax and available to all citizens. I have a second part to my presentation, but I'll have to come back on it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
My name is Dr. Lisette Bonanno. I'm running for office over in District 63, State House, Florida, District 63. I just want to share that I am opposed to these proposals 20 through 23, which will cost the taxpayer $21 billion. Okay, we have no need for it. We have, as a lady stated before me, candidate Maura, that we have plenty of lakes, rivers, and springs, and there's no lack of water, and she's been a resident here for a long time. I haven't, but she has, and you've heard her voice on this. We are the citizens of Hillsborough. Why are we, as the citizens of Hillsborough, just hearing about this? I just found out yesterday, and we've had no time to have any, to research or to even study on these proposals. This caught me off guard, so if it did, it caught probably a lot of people in Hillsborough off guard. As of now, the people of Hillsborough, we don't know how this proposal will affect our sinkholes, will affect sickness and diseases here in our county. We don't know, we need transparency, and to have transparency, we need to have more research. As the lady spoke about over in California, we need to reach out to the people. If you've done the research, go out to people, reach out to the people, let them have a voice to share what their concerns are before anyone presents a proposal here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning, Phil Compton. I've been involved in issues related to how we use water in Tampa for over 2 decades. About 15 years ago, the Iorio administration wanted to meet the new minimum flow requirement by dropping some of its treated wastewater off below the dam on its way north to be sold to Pasco County. The city would not have provided any further treatment prior to pouring it into the river, exposing the fish to all the dangerous chemical contaminants that are still present in it after it goes through the current plant. That harebrained scheme resulted in Mayor Iorio getting more grief from the public in her first 4 years than on any other issue. So she dropped it, instead worked with Tampa Bay Water to provide genuinely fresh and clean water that has made up some of the lower rivers' minimum flow for over the past decade. Then a few years ago, we had the proposal popularly known as toilet to tap. Again, public opposition made that too hot to handle, and it was dropped. Today we have Pure, which is the latest incarnation of this desire by city staff, some of whom have been here all along to capitalize on this potential resource. I'm part of a team that has had the opportunity to regularly meet with city staff the past year. While I do believe that they want to deliver a safe product at an affordable price, the research that has been done so far now clearly indicates that it will be difficult to do both. While it is technically possible to treat this water to the extent that residents aren't exposed to dangerously high levels of contaminants that would accumulate in their bodies, that our children and grandchildren won't suffer harm from consuming forever chemicals and sex hormones that could affect their growth and development, it appears fairly likely, very likely, that the cost of such treatment may make utility rates unaffordable for many. We may have to choose between safety and affordability, as the sticker shock of how expensive drinking water could become would be felt long before we're aware of any impact on human or environmental health and safety. It's all too easy to imagine a day when we have to choose between safety and affordability. It would then be very tempting to cut corners on treatment, to pretend we're delivering a safe product when we know it might not really be safe at all. This cannot be allowed to happen. But that day may well come only after your terms end. Therefore, you must monitor this project this year as it would go forward to answer the tough questions ahead, and If those answers don't fully prove the safety and affordability of the project, to then act decisively, to pull the plug on it, no matter that we've already spent a lot of money. We only support today's allocation request because of the possibility, slim as it may be, that it is possible to create safe and affordable water out of this contaminated resource. If it turns out to not work, pull the plug and push for other approaches to drought-proofing our future. After all, when half of our drinking water now goes to water St. Augustine lawns, we could do a lot more to conserve water than we are now. There is more than one way to meet this challenge. Let's not get stuck on the one approach that some decided long ago is the only way. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, my name is Zendri Smith. I'd like to speak about the water proposal from the perspective of
Can you
physical
pull the mic
therapists.
up just a little bit to you, ma'am?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, my name is Zendri Smith. I'd like to speak about the water proposal from the perspective of a physical therapist. Most of my patients have severe movement problems because of unexplained diseases like lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, diabetes, high blood pressure, autoimmune diseases, and others. My research on the reasons for all of these unexplained diseases is from the processing of our foods. We cannot add processed toilet water to the attacks on our bodies without consequences. This would be another gamble with our health. I know that there are safer alternatives than processed toilet water. Please protect the health of our bodies and vote against items 20, 21, 22, and 23. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning. My
Morning.
name is Sherry Southwell, and I am a lifelong resident of the South Hillsborough County area, and I oppose items 20 through 23, and I do not support toilet to tap. My suggestion, as it's been over many years, is that city and county officials need to get on the ball and stop, or at least slow, a lot of this development and explore other alternatives. Lower densities, perhaps, maybe support revitalization of developed areas in order to save our resources, because there are many neighborhoods in the county that, if redeveloped, could attract buyers, and we wouldn't have to dig into our natural resources even further. Once our resources are depleted, what will you do then? You know, toilet to tap is not the answer. Stop the sprawl, save our resources, and leave our aquifers alone. Thank you.
Mantez Knott, Tampa, Florida. Want to say Uhuru. Uhuru means freedom in Swahili. And one thing that everyone here should know is that we as African people should always be thinking about our freedom every day and every night, because for 621 years, we haven't had anything that looked like freedom. One thing that people also need to know is if it's Washington, D.C., if it's Tallahassee, Florida, if it's Tampa, Florida, irrespective of where the seat of government is, they're not listening to the people. They're listening to special interests. And if you look back on this information that whatsoever they're trying to push through and ram down the people's throat from toilet to tap, you would see it's some special interest that's involved. More than likely, if you research it properly, you'll see some special interest is involved. I heard the young man this morning talk about our representative, Orlando Goulds, and he went on and on and on. And that's a good observation, because the fact of the matter is, irrespective of what representative we've had over in District 5, they haven't attended to the needs of the African people. They haven't attended to the needs of the people in District 5. If it's Perry Harvey, if it's Gwen Miller, if it's the next one, if it's the next one. They have not attended to the needs of the people in District 5. And it's not only Orlando Gould's responsibility. The fact of the matter is, white people give so much pushback in African people even trying to do anything that they think we're supposed to stay in slavery and stay oppressed. Like you always have some pushback. You hear black people talk about teaching black history in class. You hear white people talk about, no, they're not going to teach no woke politics, offensive politics to their children. You understand? So we never supposed to have anything at all. You hear people say, talk about Black Lives Matter. You hear clowns come up and say, Blue Lives Matter. We talking about the police murdering African people in camera. And we're talking about our lives matter, our black skin color matter. But they say, no, the aggressor, the person that's doing the aggression, the person that's doing the wrong, no, their life matter. Like if they're the ones being hurt. That's what our representatives need to hear, and that's what they need to attend to. Our representatives, if you're black and you're running for office, if you cannot use the word reparations, if you can't bring that word to our communities and our people for 422 years of injustice and slavery and free labor, if you can't use that word in your platform, you don't represent African people. You don't represent black people. And if the white people coming around our communities and can't use the word reparations, if the other 6 white people with no women sitting up there at all, none, if you can't use the word reparations, don't come to our hoods talking to us. If you can't use the word reparations for what this city and other cities and what the United States of America have done to African people, if you can't use the word reparations, don't open your mouth to us.
Thank you, Mr. Tisnot. Thank you, brother. Appreciate your comments.
Okay. Let's see. Hello? Oh, I'm there. Okay. Hi, y'all.
Morning.
Before I get started, administrative things, I just feel that 87 items on an agenda and somebody only gets to speak for 3 minutes is not right. You know, I think we need to consider a privately initiated text amendment. Maybe one of you gentlemen would do that to give us a little time if there's more than, say, 20 items or something. So this is my request for you to do that. Start a PETA for that reason. And then the next thing, I was told today that I could not see you guys in person. I requested to see you in person and to come and address you right in the eye.
Can you state your name for the record? We know who you are, but can you state your name, please?
Yeah, well, this is before I get started, but anyways, my name is, Jean Strohmeyer. Been in Tampa for 51-ish years. I'm not telling you how old I am today. So, okay, now, everybody else, I'm ready. Thank you. My name is Jean Strohmeyer. I am here to vehemently oppose pure toilet to tap. Ask yourself how many calls or letters you received supporting this colossal bad idea. How many calls or letters opposed to it? The public at large, as you saw today, does not know what the city is up to. Why is this issue being done in the dark and behind closed doors and not brought up to the people to decide on a ballot? It is because they will do their research and become informed and reject it yet again. Let me go over a few things that people are asking me about that it's shocking. How was this project born? Well, former Mayor Bob Buckgorn, nice enough guy, I've met him, but look at the current state of our city. We hear over and over on this council that the city council and our mayor are not responsible for this and not responsible for that, but here we are in a bad state due to the lack of overall planning. Our current mayor may have just inherited this bad project and may even be a victim of its existence. We, the people of Tampa, do not want to be victims of unknown health problems from drinking our toilet water. That sort of thing is done in reality shows or life and death situations while somebody may be rotting in a prison in a third world country or in DC. But this should not be happening here in America, especially not in Tampa, Florida. Speaking of the mayor, I've met her. I've spent time with her as a activist. I went to a retirement party, and she has come to the Citizens Police Academy, which I just finished. Nice lady. I like her as a person. But is she a victim of this project? We need to save her. Vote no. I've also learned that the First Lady of the City of Tampa is a major player lobbyist. A lobbyist is a person paid very big money to get what others want out of a government. The timeline shows that Ms. Cruz came into the picture in 2009, which coincidentally is the same year our mayor became chief of police, just to retire in 2015, when she changed her party affiliation from Republican to Democrat. Then in 2019 became the mayor to the best city, home of powerful money, including MacDill Air Force Base, the Bucks, the Rays, Lightning, USF, and the great list goes on. Is that a coincidence? It's also curious that Miss Anna, the First Lady, directly or indirectly worked for the contractor PCL on this job. The only one selected out of the multitude of contractors on the planet. 1 Thessalonians 5:2 says that you should always refrain from anything that gives the appearance of wrongdoing or evil. We learned that the First Lady happens to also be the godmother to Bob Buckhorn's children, or child.
Thank you, Ms.
Is this
Strohmeyer.
triangle a coincidence, or does it smell bad?
Thank you, Ms. Strohmeyer.
It comes full circle when Ms. Cruz is also related to our senator.
Thank you, Ms.
The
Strohmeyer, for your
tangled wild
comments.
web
Thank you.
we weave. Vote no. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Council. My name is Nathan Hagan with DMB Tampa, a grassroots group here in Tampa. Here to help build support for the fixes the city needs to enact in order to ensure that Tampa is a place that you or my children or grandchildren will be able to live in one day. This is a big month for housing with the upcoming growth workshop. This is an even bigger year for housing with the upcoming comp plan updates. This can be the year that we end Jim Crow era land use regulations, which have put neighborhoods like Palmacia on a pedestal while erasing places like Dobyville and Central Avenue. This is what we need to do. We need to legalize ADUs now. We cannot delay this any further. We need to make parking minimums optional. Every 3 or 4 parking spaces we require represents an area of land that the city believes is better suited for cars than for people. This, in the middle of a crisis of displacement and community disintegration, unlike one we've faced since we built the interstate, another monument to cars over people. In the same breath, we need to fix our R20 land use category to actually support 20 dwellings per acre as intended. This can double the amount of housing we can have in many lots in our city. These measures must be enacted immediately and without delay. Then we must turn towards our comp plan updates this year. We must make it clear our intention. As other cities have done, we will acknowledge our history of racist, segregationist, and exclusionary housing policies and commit to making things right. We will acknowledge our single-family heritage without banning the kinds of missing middle housing that the working class people of Tampa need and deserve. We will simplify our residential categories and focus on placemaking over exclusion, as places like Charlotte, Minneapolis, and Portland have done. We'll invest in small-scale community-driven development through pattern zones, areas with pre-approved architectural designs that allow regular people to redevelop and add density to their own land through a cheap, streamlined process shielded from baseless NIMBYism. We will seed pre-development funds to support communities in participating in their own incremental pattern zone development opportunities. We will commit to enacting bonus densities that actually move the needle, and we may even pass inclusionary zoning measures that make sure projects like Gasworks have an appropriate amount of dedicated affordable housing from the beginning. These are things we can do this year to signal to developers, speculators, and investors a simple vision that Tampa will build so much damn housing that it'll put you out of business if you try to raise someone's rents by 30% ever again. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Clay Daniels. I've been coming up here for like almost 40 years when Bob Buckhorn was city council about the loud music problem. Y'all have went backwards and forth. You changed it backwards and forth. The base is what the problem is. And the problem in East Tampa is the cars. We can find money to have Gasparilla and all this other stuff, but we cannot find money to give Major Johnson the money that he needs to attack this loud music environmental problem in Tampa. We got these nice houses going up and everything, but we have not done anything about the problem in East Tampa. We take care of the problem everywhere else, but we forget about East Tampa, where predominantly black people live. I'm not playing the racial card. That's a fact. I've been talking about this for 40 years. There's not been no improvement. These thugs and drug dealers ride around all night long. Boom, 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 boom. They beating the senior citizens and the taxpayers to death. If we can go to the moon, we can do something about this problem. And the next problem, I got to talk fast because I got so much to cover, is that when Andrew Warren ran for state attorney, I campaigned for him hard both times because he did away with the Jim Crow law, because Jim Crow got to go. That's a serious problem in this country. Andrew Warren called a spade a spade. He would not let nobody get set up by law enforcement or by no one. He's straight. Major Calvin Johnson, one of the best majors we ever had. But we need to give him money to operate to do something about this loud music problem. And the next problem that we got, I want to talk about the new chief. There's nothing wrong with the chief that we got, but I just love Mayor O'Connor. She's a beautiful lady. I like the way she do things because she didn't know anything about me. They had wrote a police report about me, was wrong, and she made those officers go back and redo it. She said, y'all not going to do him like that. Mayor O'Connor, she went over to the housing project, got people's jobs. Mayor O'Connor in District 3, she made them respect me. They said, Clay Daniels called too much. He complained too much. She made them respect me and treated me like I was a person. That's the kind of person Mayor O'Connor is. Mayor O'Connor was talking about hiring blacks and women before she left the department, before she retired. That's who Mayor O'Connor is. Mayor O'Connor, she got access and she knows the FBI in and out. She took seminars. And she would be the best chief for this city, I think. And I hope the mayor will consider that. And as far as the bicycles, with those tickets and whatnot, Mayor O'Connor was not the chief of police. Those blacks, when they was giving those tickets out, they should have got those tickets. They was around robbing their own people, trying to break in houses and break in cars. They had boat cutters on bicycles riding at night with tote bags, trying to find something to steal. So we should give Mayor Castor, we should give her a gold medal for giving out tickets at the time.
Thank you, Mr. Clay.
Concerning those bicycles.
Thank you, Mr. Clay.
But Mayor O'Connor will make a good chief of police.
Good morning. Many of you know me. My name is Terry Rock. I'm a lifelong resident of South Tampa. I grew up swimming in the spring off of West Shore. I grew up swimming in the springs access with the canals. We all know that's impossible today because of the chemicals that have been put into the runoff water that just contaminates those areas completely. Our city forefathers didn't have what we have now. They didn't have the information that gives them what they need to know to forestall something like this happening again. I've spoken to 3 people this morning. Not one of them knew anything about this project. They had never heard of it whatsoever. So my feeling is there has not been enough done to get this information out to the people. I have several questions. Why are we not expanding our purple pipes? That would definitely save drinking water. Where is the water being stopped that is coming down the Hillsborough River? Why is it not flowing like it should be? There is a dam, and yes, we all know the rest of that story. But why is it that it's not getting to us? What chemicals are being used in the process of this pure situation? Have they been checked out? Have they got a 1-year, 5-year, 10-year? Or is it like my lifetime of seeing the chemicals
that are now in our water around our bays, that it hasn't been tested and true? These are the questions that I would like to have answered before this goes further, any further. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Yakiris. I'm against the Pure Project items 20 to 23. We don't know if this toilet to tap will filter out all pharmaceutical residue in the sewers. Since millions of people use OxyContin, Prozac, statins, and other pharmaceuticals, and then deposit it in our toilets, the unmetabolized portion of these ingested drugs, the filtration system must filter out all these toxins. And we know it can't. No study has been done on this. Just pushing this proposal that nobody has been hearing about. The disquieting fact is that we don't know that these long-term deterioration effects of these poison on people and the environment. We must think of our children and how it will affect their health in the long run. Thank you.
Thank you.
Final speaker on the second floor.
You said it was the final speaker, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right. We'll go to the registered speakers.
Good morning. The first speaker is going to be Stephanie Pointer. Stephanie, if you're on the line, please unmute yourself and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Good morning, gentlemen. I want to start by saying we, me and all my friends, support the rights for your communication with the folks who elected you. We continue to communicate, and please continue to communicate with your constituents. Don't allow bullies and registered lobbyists to push you around. You were elected to work for and with the citizens of the city, and we appreciate that. Let me stop first at Pure. Oh my God, $650,000 for communications? I didn't see not one neighborhood meeting. I didn't see anybody reaching out anywhere except showing up at a couple neighborhood association meetings. I don't consider that worth $650,000. You need to ask for some money back. Pure, one water, toilet to tap. Others speak extensively about this. Mine are very simplistic. 1, how much will this cost on my water bill? 2, what is the overall cost? And 3, if it's such a great idea, why do we keep changing the name? People, when they change their names repeatedly, are doing shady stuff. It just doesn't look good. I don't know what's going on, but I smell something funky. Item number 4, I hope you spent 30 minutes to watch the fan video that I sent to you on Tuesday. If not, it was worth your time. Here I am again with the numbers for each of my points. 1, the applicants can't tell us why the city needs to make these changes. Number 2, we started out with 9 things that they wanted to change in our city code. We're down to 3 or 4, we don't really know. But the bottom line is they're probably all not very good. And number 3, my friend, Mr. Brian Seal, Tampa Heights president, called me last night and said he's very against at least one particular part of this about the townhouses. He wasn't able to call in today, but he wanted to make sure that you guys knew that he was against it. The DECA folks from Davis Island submitted all of their comments for this. The SOG folks are against it. And I'm sure I could go on and on about the negative vibes about this particular project, this particular set of PETAs. Number 4, you voted last month to get rid of the PETAs. I think this is a perfect example of why the city should no longer allow it. Folks submitting changes to the City of Tampa code who are not experts in planning, who are not legal experts, but just guys who show up and have $666. But if the PETAs are gone, I'd like to note that item number 44 is absolutely on point. Ms. Glover asked for the SOPs to be done for the Development Coordination Department. We've asked for this before. And number 36, we'd like to welcome Ms. Travis. And non-agenda, we are here to support you. Please ask questions about Rattlesnake Point
Thank you, Ms.
because
Point.
we understand that it's moving forward. Have a good.
Thank you.
Next speaker is going to be Debbie Zummerman. Debbie, if you're on the line, please unmute yourself if you have 3 minutes to speak.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you so much. Good morning, Chairman and council members. Debbie Zommerman, city resident. Regarding item number 4, the Michelini Lum PETA, the item should be deferred or denied. We all know the current development environment is extremely robust. I have extensive real estate background spanning decades and firmly believe that the current development on small urban infill lots is in conflict with the original intent of the code and is adversely impacting the city's middle housing stock. This new construction is creating massing out of character with neighborhoods, parking that is problematic for both residents and businesses, safety issues as it relates to items such as trash pickup and transfer of outdoor living areas from yards to roof. I could go on. There has been no demonstration that these changes will reduce the number of PDs or variances, as these changes are just one of the details developers want to eliminate. We should start at the top and do our planning in that manner with codes and changes to the code and the comp plan, not bottom up. This is a tail wagging the dog. Regarding items 20 to 23, I support Council Carlson's recommendation and the comments of Nancy Stevens and many of the others, and also would ask that you look at the parallels between the public input between the pure issue. Even when there are public processes that go on, our comments never rise to the level that they're in front of you at City Council. I respectfully request that the correspondence that I submitted into the record be included in the record. I think just submitting it goes to this council, but it's not necessarily part of the record. And if you could please have my correspondence included in the record, I would appreciate it. And also, could you confirm how that would be done? Thank you so much for your time and your attention to this and your focus on the city residents. I greatly appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker was Tim Keyport. However, Tim is not listed as being registered to speak, so we're going to move on to B. John Ovick. B. John Ovick, if you're on the line, please unmute yourself and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Good morning. I think I'm on the line. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
we can hear you, sir.
Am I online?
Yes, sir. We can hear you, sir.
Good morning. My name is B. John Olvink. I'm a founding member of Friends of the Hillsborough River, and I have been a member of a stakeholders group that has been discussing PURE with city staff for over a year now. I'm here to speak on items 20 to 23. I'm speaking in support of providing the city the funding it requests, with the condition as stated in our letter to Mayor Castro, of which you have received copies. Truth and honesty. In my practice as attorney, I have learned that it takes those 2 words to build a good reputation and get people to trust you. That and returning phone calls within 24 hours. The city of Tampa is trying to build a good reputation about what it wants to do with their 50 million gallons a day of wastewater. And that begins by telling the truth and being honest about what it wants to do. Citizens of Tampa deserve that. After all, if the city gets what it wants, there will be treated wastewater flowing down the lower Hillsborough River, treated wastewater being pumped into the aquifer, and very likely treated wastewater flowing out of our tap in the home at some point in the future. And truth be told, that does not have to be bad. Many cities and countries throughout the world are at this moment recycling wastewater for beneficial use. Rivers receive treated wastewater for their minimum flow. People drink highly treated wastewater. And truth be told, our Hillsborough River needs a consistent supply of fresh water. Treating wastewater to acceptable standards could provide that. Could. On any given day, the citizens and industries of Tampa produce some 50 million gallons of wastewater. Currently, that ends up after treatment in the Hillsborough Bay. So I would begin by suggesting that the citizens and industries start using less water, thereby producing less wastewater. Don't water your lawn. Don't wash your car. Shower perhaps 2 minutes per day less, etc. We all know them, but nobody wants to moderate. Moderation is not an American word. The problem with wastewater will always be what to do with it. It doesn't go away, not even if you pump it deep into the earth. We cannot continue to pollute our home. There are several treatment methods out there that take most of the pollutants, including forever chemicals, out of the wastewater. The end product is very likely safe to drink and safe for the river. But those methods are expensive. Before you approve further funding, the city needs to tell you what methods they plan to use and what it will cost, honestly. Tallahassee has told the city of Tampa to start doing something beneficial with its wastewater. The state is not planning to provide funds. The reason I support this request for funding is to allow the city a chance to go out, talk about their plans and the alternatives to their plans. We have heard many questions today from people speaking out they never heard of it. Please, I urge the city, go out and explain it. Explain it honestly. Listen to concerns, provide evidence and hard facts that whatever they're going to do will be safe and affordable. I expect the city to be truthful.
Thank you, sir.
Even if the truth is inconvenient.
Thank you,
if
sir.
they're not, Friends of the River will be ready.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Carlson?
Mr. Ovink, are you still there?
I am there.
This is Bill Carlson. Just a question, clarification. The proposal that's on the on the table today narrows the choices down to 2 finalists. Is it your organization's opinion that it's better to go forward with the 2 finalists, or to go back and communicate with the public about all the original alternatives?
I believe, Mr. Carlson, that most of the money will be spent on financing public outreach. And so I would recommend at this moment that we go forward with an approval for the funding at this moment for this specific part of the project. We expect the city to come back to City Council in 6 to 8 months with a final proposal, having listened to the concerns of the community. At that moment, I ask you seriously to consider whether to move forward with this project or not. And at this moment, Friends of the River does not have a position about moving forward. But we would like to have the city explain to the citizens what they're planning to do.
So just to clarify the question real fast, we went from the original 5 choice alternatives down to 2. Now, would your organization rather them speak to the community about 5 choices, or just a short list of 2?
All 5.
Okay.
All of them.
Thank you.
City needs to talk about all the alternatives.
Mr. Carlson, you finished? Thank you, sir. Next speaker.
Thank you. We're going to circle back to Tim Keyports. I see that he is now registered. Tim, if you're on the line, please unmute yourself, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Good morning, City Council. Tim Keyports, President of Seminole Heights Neighborhood Association. Thanks for the time this morning. I'll keep it very short. The purpose of PURE is 3 goals per Exhibit A in the SIRE system. Provide minimum flows to the lower Hillsborough River. That is in place due to a lawsuit that was settled many years ago. So thanks to the citizen activists back then who forced that solution. The second one is to improve the management. Let me underline that: management and sustainability of the Hillsborough River Reservoir as a source of drinking water for the city. One of the concerns is, how do we drought-proof Tampa? A number of the citizens have already asked, why are we not fully utilizing the purple pipe system, maybe expanding it as well? So we're going to look to spend how many billions of dollars on this when we could actually utilize the purple pipe system? As Mr. Ovink just pointed out, we could also do much by conservation. We also should ask the water department to study how much water is going to be saved once the pipes is fully implemented. That's already a $3 billion investment into the city and is much needed. If you look at how many water main breaks happen on a weekly basis just on Hannah Avenue in our neighborhood, it is ridiculous. How much water is being wasted through broken pipes? The city stepped up. Thank you to Jane Castor. We are going to be fixing these pipes. But I think that in alone by itself will drought-proof Tampa for the foreseeable future. And then the last project goal is to address Senate Bill 64, which is the unfunded state mandate to do something with wastewater. I don't understand why the city of Tampa is not leading all the other cities in the state and all the other organizations like SwiftMud with the proposal to push back on the state for an unfunded mandate, which is ridiculous on its face. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
The next speaker is going to be Sarah Edwards. Sarah, if you're on the line, please unmute yourself and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm a resident of Tampa and I'm here to comment on the Pure project. I'd like to echo the comments made by others, especially Nancy Stevens, who's done an amazing job researching the issue and advocating for deeper assessment of the city's future water needs and viable, safe options for securing it. My understanding of the proposal gives me great pause as to the safety of both the resulting drinking water, especially for my young children who seem possibly likely to be exposed to forever chemicals, and of the environmental impacts, not to mention the high price tag to taxpayers for this questionable proposal. Water is, of course, an essential resource and it must be protected at all costs, but please let's make sure a project that costs billions of dollars is at least delivering safe drinking water and no impacts to the environment. Reverse osmosis seems a proven safe treatment method, and it seems that if safe drinking water, as it should be, is the highest priority of this council, this approach should be considered if, instead of the experimental methods proposed that haven't even been piloted. We should also have a much greater focus on water conservation in the first place. As others have cited, we waste a ton of water in our city, from broken pipes to rainy day lawn watering. I'd also like to echo Councilman Carlson's concerns that the public is largely totally unaware of this proposal. I think the speakers today and the referral of the project as toilet to tap speaks highly to this. You need to do a much better job engaging the community in this important issue that will affect their health, well-being, community safety, our environment, our local wildlife, and our wallets. I urge you to push pause on this project and go back to the drawing board to do a proper assessment of our city's needs and options for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
The next speaker is going to be Deborah Kaufman. Deborah, if you're on the line, please unmute yourself and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you. Good morning. Thanks for this opportunity to speak today. I'm Deborah Kaufman, and I'm speaking today as the president of the League of Women Voters of Hillsborough County on agenda items 20 through 23 related to the Pure project. And I want to thank you all for your willingness to serve our community, because the League knows how hard it can be sometimes to be an elected official, and we are grateful for your service. The League has been involved in a coalition of stakeholders that has been meeting with city staff on the Pure project over the last year. We support approval of the funding requests today for this project because it allows the city to explore the options available for you to meet your permit and legal obligations, as well as to address other needs related to water supply and saltwater intrusion in Tampa. However, while we are supportive, we have concerns, a lot of which you've heard from many people today, that lead us to call on you to impose some conditions on moving the project forward. While other members of our coalition today touched on some of the technical aspects of our concerns, I'm here to ask you to initiate a public information campaign, as has been requested by so many today, on what the city plans to accomplish in this next phase of the project and beyond. The League's goal, of course, is to create an informed electorate, and this can only happen when you provide sufficient information for voters to give you their input. We are concerned about the lack of public communication on the plans for this project as they have evolved. Therefore, the condition we ask you to impose today is to require that a portion of the funds requested or other additional funds be expended in a public information campaign to inform most members of our community on the alternatives under consideration, and that also elicits their comment on those alternatives. This project is complicated and includes many as yet undefined activities. And we know there are regulatory and legal requirements which the city has to meet. These need to be communicated. There are many ways you can satisfy those requirements, and all of those alternatives should be provided to the public as you go forward. The expenditures proposed today should be focused on identifying the most viable and cost-efficient activities that meet the city's needs. And while exploring these alternatives, the public should be engaged through information and dialogue. In the end, as you know, no alternative will be successful without the support of your constituents. Thank you for the time today. I appreciate the gravity of the choices before you. Please shape the decision to fund the Pure project so that the citizens of Tampa and the ratepayers of the City of Tampa Water Utility receive the best possible solution to maintaining the quality of water and the quality of life in our community. Thank you.
Mr. Carlson, you ready?
Could I just ask you a quick question? Are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Same question I asked Mr. Ovink. So this proposal is taking it from 5 or more choices down to 2 shortlisted ones. Would your organization prefer us to just approve 2 going forward for the public to look at, or 5 or more?
I think limiting to the 2 choices is, I think the timing for that may be too soon because the public is not aware of all the alternatives, viable alternatives that could be considered. So I would lean to the side of having more of the alternatives out there so that the public can consider them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Next speaker is going to be Brooke Ward. Brooke, if you're on the line, please unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, Council. Thank you for giving us this time. My name is Brooke Ward, although a lot of you know me as Brooke Eric. Finally got around to changing it to my married name. I'm here speaking on behalf of our nearly 3,500 Food and Water Watch Tampa members in support of the position held by Sierra Club, League of Women Voters Hillsborough, and Friends of the River on items 20 through 23, the Pure project. Tampa must investigate water supplies that don't require Tampa citizens to drink recycled wastewater. There are ways to assure Tampa's future water supply without requiring that we drink recycled wastewater. That's why all alternatives must be fully explored, including safety, costs, and risks, and explained in advance of any city decision to the citizens of Tampa. Recycling wastewater is much more expensive than conservation or buying from Tampa Bay Water. One form of conservation that hasn't been mentioned here today is going upstream, seeing where we're having millions of gallons extracted for industrial use. That is one way that we can keep water in our system. Also, this city council passed in August 100% by 2035 initiative that included energy efficiency. Well, energy efficiency, if implemented, is one of the best ways to also conserve our water. Efficiency in the water sector also involves both the end use of water, such as efficient toilets, low flow shower heads, and reducing peak demand. But most importantly, it's efficiencies in the supply of water, many of which were outlined here today. And in doing so, we need to make sure the costs of this incredibly expensive proposal are not passed on to our ratepayers. We are seeing astronomical rent increases. PECO is passing on their costs to our ratepayers. Right now, it is becoming almost impossible to afford to live in Tampa on the average salary. We need to make sure that these costs are not a further burden to our most vulnerable citizens. And most importantly, in this process, we need transparency. Just as Nancy Stevens so eloquently laid out, we need to be diligent in this process to ensure that we're protecting our water and Tampaños. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Next speaker is going to be Sandra Sanchez. Sandra, if you're on the line, please unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes to speak. Please unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes to speak. Please unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Gentlemen, my name is Sandy Sanchez. Gentlemen, I'm here to talk about item number 44, the audit of the department that handles design exceptions. The dark department, as the neighbors call it, the department that makes decisions and then changes them without any explanation. A department where decisions are made behind closed doors with no explanation given, even when requested by concerned parties. The meat of this report is under policies and procedures, and I quote, the criteria. Tampa City Ordinance, Chapter 2, Section 2-46 requires departments to create and maintain all records with adequate and proper documentation of the organization, together with functions, policy, decisions, procedures, and essential transactions of the department. This department does not. The quote continues, the cause, lack of time and other priorities, the effect of a condition, potential inconsistencies in decision-making and the way processes are carried out. Also, loss of operational knowledge in the event of turnover or retirement. Recommendations, management should develop written policies and procedures to ensure effective and consistent performances of responsibilities. Management's response, the writing of the new standard operating procedures is in the work program for fiscal year 2022 with a targeted completion date of 2023, unquote. Gentlemen, are you kidding me? This department needs 20 months to open their doors and let the sunshine law in? Because this department has not adhered to Tampa City Ordinance Chapter 2, Section 2-46, I contend that the decisions that have been made in the past are possibly illegal. I hope this council will look at this ridiculous time frame and understand the damage that will be done if this department continues to act in secret. My suggestion is to allow the Variance Review Board handle these issues while management of this department writes standard operating procedures. And just as a sidebar, the request you made to the department at my request in October about the secret decisions that have been made for certain developers have still not been answered in 4 months. What are they hiding? Please solve this issue quickly and take this responsibility away from this department. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sanchez.
Next speaker is going to be Carol Ann Bennett. Carol, if you're on the line, please unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes to speak.
My name is Carol Ann Bennett. I've been coming here listening to water plans since the last administration. The city told us that 20 years from now, we would be short 7 million gallons a day. I said then, and I say now, we would not have a problem in 20 years if the city exerted as much effort on water conservation as it has exerted on spending mountains of money on technology that may be unsafe for people and the environment. The city said replacing old pipes will save 5 million gallons a day. Fierce conservation could save 4 million a day. Problem solved. Half of our drinking water is used to water lawns, half. But our Purple Pipes program is grossly underused. Only 50% of eligible households participate. What has the city done about that in light of our so-called water emergency? Tampa Bay Water keeps offering us free money to promote water conservation, but the city keeps saying no. This shows Tampa's lack of interest in conservation. The price tag today is ridiculous. If Tampa did a full court press and devoted itself fiercely to conservation and we still fell short, I would feel differently about the proposals and expenses. But I cannot support 1 penny for Pure until I see a 100% commitment to conservation. Second thing I want to talk about are the Michelini Lum Pitas. I have a lot of concerns. I certainly do not understand all of the ramifications. I hope you read the letter from Brian Seal in Tampa Heights. It illustrates how this won't work for some neighborhoods. You have the opposition letter from Davis Islands. That letter is so well written, I could not possibly say it better. So please imagine me reading their letter as my position on these PETAs. And lastly, I want to say it is ridiculously hard for a citizen to solve a problem in their community. No one knows how or where or what or who. It is very intimidating. You guys are the ones that people can turn to because you are accessible to us. We can call you and meet with you and get help from you. You tell us how to help our neighborhoods. No one else does that for us the way you do. No one else is as face-to-face with the citizens as you are. If we didn't have you explaining how the city works and how to help our communities, we would be lost. It blows my mind that anyone would portray your help and guidance as wrong. When they portray you doing your job the way you promised you would as illicit or illegal, they twist the truth into a pretzel. There are people who get paid to meet with officials and staff and lobby to achieve financial gain. Those meetings must be documented so the citizens can know who is getting paid to lobby for what. The people who don't make a dime for all their hard work, whose love for their neighborhoods is the sole reason they fight, have been twisted into some kind of villain with you as our accomplices. This is gaslighting, and it is dangerous and harmful. I say shame on the ones who were doing it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is going to be Robin Smiley. Robin, if you're on the line, please unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Do we have her on the
Robin,
line?
are you there?
She logged in? Ms. Smiley?
Okay, we're going to move on. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Chair, do you want to move on?
Let's move on.
Okay, we're going to move on to our next speaker, which is going to be Lorraine Perino. Lorraine, if you're on the line, please unmute yourself and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Good morning. My name's Lorraine Carino. I'm a third-generation Tampa resident. How many times must Tampa residents say no, an unequivocal no, to this pure zombie of a proposal that keeps returning from the dead to torment us year after year? 3 years ago, I traveled to City Hall to give my 3-minute comment against this horrible proposal. 3 years ago. Yet, like Count Dracula, this horrible proposal rises again from its coffin, trying to suck hundreds of millions of hard-earned dollars from unsuspecting taxpayers. What neither the mayor nor the City of Tampa Water Department staff will tell you, City Council, is that this funding proposal will not cost city taxpayers $1.5 million, nor will it cost $500 million. No, over 30 years, this fiasco of a funding proposal will end up costing us taxpayers $4 billion with a B dollars. It will also add an additional $80 or more to each resident's monthly utility bill, which in the law of unintended consequences will result in increased rents, increased food costs, increased everything, as landlords, restaurants, grocery stores, and other merchants pass on this exorbitant monthly increase to their customers. What neither the mayor nor the water department is also not telling you or anyone else is that in this unscientific approach, it is planning to store this treated but dirty wastewater into the Florida aquifer, something that has never been done before, without even informing us of what the consequences will be to our rivers, our natural springs, to the very water that we depend on for our survival, our drinking water. Why aren't they telling us how this will affect our natural ecosystems? Because they themselves don't know, because this has never been done before, and because they are not turning to science for any answers. Who in the world purposely contaminates a pure water system that an entire population depends on for its survival? Where will we humans and our native wildlife get our drinking water if the aquifer is contaminated? If this sounds like a doomsday scenario, it's because it is. There are more sustainable, more scientific, and less destructive methods for increasing Tampa's water supply. Over the past 3 years, local civic groups have discussed all of them with the water department. Yet, in its callous disregard for the safety and the cost to the taxpayers, which it supposedly serves, the water department continues to be hell-bent on the most risky, the most dangerous, and the most expensive option of all. Then it has the temerity to title this fiasco pure. This risky, exorbitant, unscientific, dangerous proposal should not be funded until the water department can, 1, using scientific data, notify all residents of the present and future risk of storing dirty water in the Florida aquifer. 2, notify all residents in writing of the entire cost of this proposed project over the next 30 years. 3, notify all city residents of how much the proposal will increase their monthly water bill and how long this increased monthly expense will last. Unless the water department can honestly answer each of these questions, Tampa City Council should not commit 1 penny of taxpayers' hard-earned dollars to this horrible proposal. Please vote no to funding PURE. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'm going to double back to Robin Smiley. Robin, if you're on the line, please unmute yourself and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Robin, please click on the mic that's on the panel to unmute yourself.
Madam Clerk, for sake of time, let's move on, and then we'll get her in the end and give her one last shot in the end. Let's move on.
Next speaker is going to be Michael Randolph. Michael, if you're on the line, please unmute yourself and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Good morning. My name is Michael Randolph, and I'm with the West Tampa Community Development Corporation. Today, I'm going to be talking about 3 items: mental health, affordable housing, and an update to the exclusion of Census Tract 44 from the Opportunity Zone. Mental health. There's a growing school of psychologists that support a theory called intergenerational trauma. This trauma affects specifically African American community. It affects the psychological and the physiological aspect of the DNA. I'll talk more about that during our upcoming meeting. Because the issue of mental health is so important, the West Tampa CDC is going to launch the first community initiative dealing with mental health. We're going to focus on 1 week to have the community to focus on mental health. We're going to ask barbershops, we're going to ask nonprofits and others to talk about mental health for 1 week in West Tampa so it becomes a topic of conversation. The next thing I want to talk about is the West Tampa Affordable Housing Initiative, in which we're putting together a think tank to talk about strategies related to affordable housing. We'll be meeting with our housing tomorrow to share this initiative with them, and I'll keep you up to date on that. Related to the last item, dealing with the Census Tract 44 being eliminated from the Opportunity Zone, a couple of things has taken place. On the 9th of February at 5:30, the West Tampa Infrastructure Subcommittee, which is the CAC, is going to have a meeting on this topic. On 2/24, the West Tampa CDC is going to have a meeting on this topic at 6:30 p.m. to follow up. We also are doing what's known as a petition by way of change.org. That petition is going to be circulated to city council members and other members that feel that excluding Census Tract 44 from the community, from the Opportunity Zone is a big problem, especially as it relates to the African American community. As always, thank you for giving me an opportunity to share my issues with the community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker.
Next speaker is going to be Mary Matz. Mary, if you're on the line, please unmute yourself and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you and good morning. I'm addressing items 20 through 23. My name is Mary Willa Matz, and I was born and raised in Tampa and lived most of my life here. My undergraduate degree is in microbiology, and my Master's of Science is in Industrial Hygiene with a minor in Environmental Sciences. I worked for the Veterans Administration for over 20 years, and one of my assignments at the Tampa VA was to conduct research in occupational safety and health. As a scientist and a researcher, I implore you to ensure scientific testing and modeling is included in any proposal you review and ultimately adopt. Such scientific testing and modeling is critical. It is essential to facilitate the protection of our groundwater, our river waters, our springs, and ultimately our drinking water impacted by this project. On review of the Meeting 1 panel report of the Tampa Pure proposed water infrastructure project dated May 13, 2021, and prepared by the National Water Research Institute Independent Advisory Panel, it was apparent that I am not the only person or organization that sees the critical need for modifications and thorough testing of the many parameters related to this project. Throughout this report, mention is made of the necessity for additional testing and modeling. Although the panel found that the proposed components could, quote, form the basis for an overall system that meets the objectives stated by the city, the panel also stated that, quote, prior to moving forward with the Pure project as described, modifications to individual core components are needed, along with additional data and analyses, end quote. The report notes that both quantity and quality metrics for the discharge of water into the river should be established, meaning these were non-existent at the date of the panel report. The panel stressed that, quote, more monitoring is needed to support further development, design, implementation, and long-term operation of the Tampa Pure project, end quote. The panel also mentions the requirement for monitoring of, quote, not only for traditional
Thank you, ma'am.
parameters,
Thank you.
total dissolved solids, total organic carbons, and nutrients.
Next speaker is going to be Robert Abinger. Robert, if you're on the line, please unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, council members. Bob Aberger, 540 Bosphorus Avenue, Davis Island, speaking this morning on behalf of the Davis Island Civic Association as their zoning chair in opposition of item 4, the private text amendment. We previously provided you correspondence dated September 15. And part of the discussion that I'm sure you're hearing is issues with the process. You know, I would share with you as a 30-year commercial developer, I have no problem with private text amendments. I think the problem occurs when it's not clear why we're doing them. What is the public purpose that we are trying to achieve here? You know, Councilman Dingfelder, I believe you would ask for a massing study. One of the things that we've discussed at length with regard to these text amendments, it would be wonderful if there was actually staff analysis that showed the impact of these proposed changes, which I don't believe has been made available to you all or certainly any of us. As I look at section 27, height definition's already been changed since the PETA was submitted. And as I try and understand the consequences, it would appear that you now could have the possibility of a 45-foot wall 7 feet away from an adjoining property. So what we're doing is granting density. And Lord knows we're becoming a more dense community, and we need to find a way in our code to support and promote density, particularly as it relates to affordable housing. This code amendment is not the vehicle to get us there. It addresses only a density. It does not address trash and the ability and access for city vehicles to deal with trash. It reduces parking, which while it may be a future trend on car reduction, we already have pretty significant situations where current developments are not providing sufficient parking, so it all ends up on the street, and we already don't have enough street parking. And most importantly, you know, I'm not sure what we're trying to achieve. This will achieve more dense $1 million+ townhome units in our communities that are problematic to adjoining neighbors. So I would ask that you oppose this. And I applaud that we're making changes in how text amendments are going to be addressed in the future. I particularly am focused on making sure that the impact of these are clearly stated and understood. I also want to close with, I really appreciate you guys' patience. You're amazing.
Thank you, sir.
And I appreciate what you guys are doing. I would also ask.
All right, Madam Clerk, I guess we'll try to go back to Ms. Robbins Miley before we end this.
Right now it's showing that I cannot unmute her. I think she needs to enter a PIN.
She's off the line. All right, let's move on then. Any more for public comment?
Chair, that's going to conclude public comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me say thank you to Councilmember Maniscalco's aide, Lisa Edwards, who's always helping us out. My aide is back there fielding calls, and people are calling in about certain stuff. So let me just say thank you for the work Lisa's doing by helping us downstairs and keeping some order down there on the second floor. Thank you, sir, and thank her. All right, item number 3. I think that is staff. Staff for item number 3.
Yes. Good morning, Chairman Goods, honorable members of City Council.
We need to see you,
J.C.
sir.
Hutchison, Construction
There we go.
Services Manager and Chief Building Official. We're excited to be here today for a code amendment related to the creation and implementation of the city's new construction activity compliance team. Over the last year, I've worked with Tampa Police Department, Neighborhood Enhancement, and the City Attorney's Office to understand the current process and evaluate opportunities to increase efficiency and cohesiveness. The construction services previously funded a position in code enforcement and in Tampa Police Department, and the construction compliance activity team utilized those positions and brought them back to the construction services and reassigned the 2 positions to create now a 4-member team, including a construction fraud investigator, 2 certified code enforcement officers, and an office support specialist. All of these positions were proposed and approved in the current FY budget so we can hit the ground running with this program. In order to officially launch this team, the code must be amended to officially transfer the authority and powers to the building official that currently reside in code enforcement. Upon approval of this ordinance, we plan to introduce this team to the neighborhood associations, CRAs, and any other organizations looking to make sure work done in this community is code compliant. And I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for the fine gentleman? Mr. Maniscalco, you recognize Mr. Dingfellow.
Thank you very much. I just want to say thank you to you and your team and everybody that's worked hard on this. I think this will be very beneficial because I know I've received many complaints over the years, as have other council members, regarding building permit violations, whether they're building a mother-in-law suite, making additions to the property that they're not supposed to, and then making excuses to cover it up. Now it gives us an avenue as to when people complain about it, we can say, you know, it goes directly to the building department, or it goes, you know, from code enforcement, whatever it is, as you've already explained it. So we appreciate your hard work. Thank you.
Dingfellow, recognize. We'll go Mr. Miranda.
Thank you, Mr. Hutchison. Ms. Feely and legal department, we appreciate all your work on putting this together. I was rather shocked to see the numbers of complaints, I guess, or investigations in illegal construction activities. Can you just for the public's knowledge to know why we're doing this and what's actually going on out there, can you enlighten us a little bit in terms of the volume of that, Mr. Hutchison?
Sure. We listed since 2019 that there's over 2,000 complaints that we investigate. When we go out there, it may be something as little as someone painting their house. It may not be a legitimate complaint of something for us to act on, but we're just reviewing the complaint. Once we find out that it is in violation, then we move forward with either a notice of violation or a stop work order, depending on the scope of the work that's being performed.
But a lot of times, I mean, we've got flippers out there who are, you know, buying homes and doing major construction without any permits. You find those as well, don't you, sir?
Yes, sir.
And do we already have a hotline for that, or are we developing one, or what?
Yeah, our construction fraud hotline will be corresponded once this is approved, so we can kind of formalize that process so people can call in and we can then send the code enforcement officers out there specifically for that. Normally we'll take it on our normal line and we investigate them as they come in right now, but we want it to be able to, once this is formally approved, to kind of refocus that and get a new work on it.
Yeah, and I guess I'd ask you to take a look at the wording of that, because when I saw it said construction fraud, a lot of times that would lead somebody to believe that, you know, fraudulent, like going out and trying to sell somebody something, or you know, the interaction between the contractor and the homeowner and some sort of fraudulent thing. But I think what we really want to focus on perhaps is like illegal construction or unpermitted construction. some other wording like that, or maybe in addition to fraud. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mary, you recognize, sir?
Like the prior councilman, I want to thank you and your division very much for what you're doing. However, this type of work that's being done, it's not done Monday through Friday from 9 to 5. I'll let you know that. I think you're aware of that. So whoever gets these positions, they have to understand that they're mainly weekend workers. And there's nothing wrong with weekend workers. I've worked most weekends my whole life, and I love it that way. You know why? I got Monday and Tuesday, that's my Saturday and Sunday, and I can do a whole hell of a lot more on Monday and Tuesday than I can on Saturday and Sunday. You start to realize how privileged you are for having the days off when people are working and you're free to do what you want. So a lot of this is done from Friday night to Sunday afternoon. And I think, you know, the perimeters of the areas, there's some that have more of this than others. And then the next question becomes this: how well are you staffed, or are you staffed at all, for when you see a house that's being subdivided from a single family unit to a duplex, to a triplex, to a fourplex that is not zoned for that in the same house as it moved? That's number one. Number two, under the current laws, I believe that you have the right to lease your house or rent your house or Airbnb, but it's got to be for a minimum of 5 days. I would think that is violated 95% of the time. They don't rent for 5 days. They rent for 2 and 3 and 4 days. And are you prepared to do that, or does this ordinance cover any of those 2 items that I brought up?
Go ahead.
Excuse me, Chair. Kamaria Pettis-Malka from the City Attorney's Office. I appreciate the questions regarding the Airbnb. That is a separate violation other than what Construction Services is here for this morning. Violations of short-term rentals or vacation rentals, those complaints are issued to code enforcement, and code enforcement conducts those investigations. That is not a construction services violation. That is in Chapter 19 and Chapter 27 of the code.
Thank you for the enhancement. I'm saying that because I know what's going on, and you know what's going on. All of us know what's going on, and it's very difficult to patrol.
Yes, sir.
We get most of the calls that we get is one of those 2 areas, but I appreciate very much for your correction. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Well, to follow up to Mr. Miranda's question, will we be able to have the new positions handle the weekend work? Because Mr. Miranda's right on that note. And 2, this hotline, can people report the Airbnbs? Because he's right on that note. Or how do we handle it? Since you're saying that's 2 separate areas, so I'd like to know whose area is that and how do they work that as well?
If there are, excuse me, Mr. Chair, Kamaria Pettis-Malka from the City Attorney's Office, if the members of the public would like to make a complaint regarding short-term rental or vacation rentals or any violations of that nature, they can, and as they do right now, contact code enforcement regarding those complaints. They can also contact the Tampa Police Department if there are any issues regarding to noise. But as currently is already in process, members of the public can contact code enforcement regarding complaints for Airbnb short-term rental or vacation rentals, and then it's up to code enforcement to investigate those complaints.
Thank you. Very thorough in your answer. But back to Mr.
And then Mr. Hutchinson can answer the question regarding construction on the weekend.
Thank you.
And the fraudulent number.
Correct. This is our first step on this, getting staff in the position. We've already talked, and I've talked to HR as well about, on-call services and things if we need to have extended weekend work or working after hours or kind of staggering our inspectors to be able to handle that service. So it's more of a work in progress. We understand, especially on long weekends and things like that, that we would expect work to be done that time. You would also be surprised how many citizens definitely are ears to the street and let us know that things are going on. Then once we have any suspicion, what's already written in the codes, that we have the ability to go on and look at that work. And we can confirm that work is done. We use Google Street View. We use any aerial photography we can use to also help us with any investigations as they go forward.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Citro, you recognized?
Thank you very much. First, I'm going to say thank you very much. I get a lot of calls and comments of supposed contractors that come in, ask for a little bit of money, and then do a little work and say they need more money. These are not licensed, insured, bonded. They're not even licensed contractors, and they're scamming people out of money. I thank you for putting this forward. Let's go back to legal. When you say these Airbnbs, and that code enforcement could take care of them, you're talking at 4 units or less. People who live in condominiums need to call the state for that, correct?
Kamaria Pettis-Mackle from the City Attorney's Office. Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I'm hoping, Mr. Citro, that maybe our legal department or somebody will kind of put together and get with the legislative delegation and talk about the code enforcement issue we have when we're dealing with four apartments on a building, because we have a lot of issues within the city. So I'm hoping that legal and the growth management department will look at coming up with something that we may could submit to the state to see if we can get some rules changed. So thank you for bringing that up, sir.
I agree with you completely. I will be in Tallahassee next week with Florida Legal Voters, and I'll let my voice be heard.
All right, any more questions on item number 3? All right, so we're looking to move this morning, right? Is that correct, Ms. Maniscalco?
Yeah.
All right, motion to move this item. Mr. Miranda's moved it. Any second?
I want me to read it.
Read it. You can read that. I'm sorry.
Item number 3, Mr. Chairman, file number E2022-8, Chapter 5, Chapter 9, and 19. Move an ordinance being presented for reading consideration. Ordinance in the City of Tampa, first reading, being ordinance in the City of Tampa, Florida, amending a City of Tampa ordinance, Code of Ordinance, transferring the authority to enforce certain building permit violation from the Department of Code Enforcement to the Construction Service Division, amending Section 5-104.3.1, authority amending Section 9.2, definition amending Section 19-3, definition amending Section 19-4, Department of Code Enforcement duties, and the scope of authority of the Director, providing for severability, providing for repeal of all ordinances in conflict, providing an effective date.
Second one, Mr. Maniscalco. Roll call vote, please.
Maniscalco? Yes. Vieira? Yes. Citro?
Yes.
Miranda?
Yes.
Dingfelder?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
And Goode?
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on March 3rd, 2022 at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Clerk. Item number 4.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman Goods and council members. LaShawn Dock here with City Planning. And thank you so much for your time today. Council, item number 4, I would like to just give a brief background and introduction before we bring on the applicant to make the presentation. Item number 4, this item before you is a privately initiated text amendment. This is a part of the January 2021 amendment cycle. The applicant is Steve Michelini and John Lum. And just to give a quick background and update on the request, the initial submittal consisted of a total of 9 items. You're going to see a chart presented by the applicant that will show you those 9 items under the request. And through meetings with staff and through the public, that list was further refined. And you have coming before you today a total of 4 items. So these items, they were workshopped before you at City Council workshop in August, on August 26th. This item went before the Planning Commission in October and November. Planning Commission found the request consistent with the comprehensive plan. And just as a reminder again, Council, this item is before you this morning for first reading consideration. So I believe the applicant is there, Steve Michelini, John Lum, they're on the second floor, they are present. And I believe he is ready to go ahead and make his presentation. So I'm going to turn it over to Steve at this time. But I am available, Council, once he is complete with his presentation, if you have any questions.
Steve Michelini, I'm here as a representative for these requested text amendments. And I'm going to put up on the overhead, there were originally 9 requests. And you see that the first one is stricken through. That's an error. It should not be stricken through. So that's the first one, and that involves removing the calculations that are required under the current code for separation between buildings on a single piece of property. Now, this is the calculation that we're removing or requesting to be removed. And it is very difficult to follow. Previously, we had 3 different staff members look at it on one particular project, and then we had our own engineer and our own architect look at it, and none of them came up with the same calculation of what the separation should be between structures for multifamily. And the result was that we met with Gloria Moreta and her staff, and they decided that instead of trying to figure this out and then having the staff try to figure out what those separations should be, that we should come up with a standard separation of 15 feet between buildings. One of our members has asked that be considered to be 10 feet instead of 15 feet, but that's the first item we're requesting your support on and changing.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question, please?
You recognize?
Thank you very much. Mr. Michelini, the calculations, I agree, are very hard to come by. And 15 foot would bring that into a standard. But, and that would keep the request by fire department for enough between buildings. But how will that affect the larger PDs when several buildings will be put on a PD?
Well, a PD, as you know, establishes its own setbacks. This is for non-PD type of projects, and it really simplifies matters. And we ran this through the fire department, and because, as you know, they have to have fire separation between buildings. So these are lower scale projects that essentially didn't have a calculation, and you couldn't figure out how that dimension was to be determined. And as you added height in this particular equation, it continually changed the setback and separation between buildings. So typically these are smaller scale projects that we needed to have a standard setback established, and this is what the staff came back to us with.
So even on a smaller scale PD that may be on a 100-foot lot and with 2 buildings, it's not going to affect that at all?
It won't affect it. I mean, it does continue to protect the fire separation between buildings, and that's found in the table 600 of the construction code. So it doesn't eliminate that, but for those that don't need those special considerations, it gives you a dimension that you can then plan to, without having to figure out, well, if I change the height and I change the length and change the width, what's happening here. And it was extremely cumbersome. And like I said, the city staff, we had Eric Cotton do a calculation, we had Gloria Moreta do one, we had Kathy Coyle do one, and the dimensions never came out the same for the same specific project, for the same building that we were proposing.
Thank you, Mr. McLeany. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I'll give him an extra minute. Let's see more time.
So,
Mr. McLeany, how much more time do you need for your presentation, sir?
I'm going to go through them quickly here for you. The second request is that
2 minutes.
RM24 is the only zoning district that has a 30-foot height limitation, and all of the other zoning districts, as you can see on the chart, are 35 feet. So we were asking that be standardized. The city staff agreed with us, and it should be 35 feet. That doesn't change the intensity or the development density. It simply allows you to build the same as a single-family residential structure. Right now, you'd have to rezone to RM18. You'd have to downzone to RM18 to get to 35 feet, and we've done that in the past for a couple of projects.
Mr. McLean, can I ask you a question, please, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Can you put that back up?
Yes, sir.
Stephen, I don't understand what's the number 60 there on the RM24?
That's the maximum height that you can get at, and what we were suggesting is that beyond the 35 feet, then you would have to have the setbacks, you know, that were established for a foot of height for every 1 foot of additional setback.
So, and LaShawn can confirm
Here-
this, so what you're,
Here it is on the code.
is that the
So,
proposed code or the existing
No,
code?
this is existing code. So we would be requesting to change that from 30 feet to 35 feet. And then after 35 feet, then you would apply the 1 foot additional setback for every increased foot in height.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Here,
right.
recognized.
Thank you, sir. Mine's a technical question. Is anyone else's SIRE not working to find the agenda? And I've been trying to log on to it, and it said site can't be reached. It's on my phone, on my computer.
Hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm having problems with mine also.
Okay, that's fine.
All right, so hopefully IT's listening to get us up and running.
Thank you, sir. That's
The next request was that for duplexes or 2 unit,
Mine's working.
2 unit multifamily or semi-detached units, that you would not be required to have a visitor parking space. This became a problem because of the ownership, the maintenance, and the fact that we were, by the other codes, you were providing 2 garage spaces plus 2 in the driveway. So you had 4 spaces, but this was asking for you to have an additional single space, and that eats up a lot of green space. So you would have to ask for a waiver, a design exception for a waiver, and then pay the in lieu fee for green space, which was not the objective of this particular code. So again, the ownership issue, the maintenance, and who controls the single visitor space for 2 units became an operational problem. And again, the staff agreed that this should be changed. This only applies for 2 units or less. Are there any questions on this? And the last change that was being requested involved multifamily townhouse style projects that would allow the entrance to be in a central courtyard. And currently the code says that they have to face, all of the units have to face a right-of-way. And this would allow you to create a courtyard with a central entranceway, and then the units would face, you would still have the address on the outside. So it wouldn't be a 911 or emergency location problem, but you would enter through a central entryway into a courtyard, and then the units would face the courtyard in the central area. It also provided additional security for individuals instead of having the units face all out on the street. This does not affect parking. It doesn't affect any other aspect of the development. It's a design issue that needed to be addressed. As I said, the staff is supporting all 4 of these requests, and the Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend this to council. That's all 4 of them. I can recite the code references or the references from the Planning Commission that all of this is supported by various aspects of the comprehensive plan, starting with land use objective 8.15, 8.151, 9.2, 9.26, 9.3, 9.3.1, 9.7, 9.72, 9.74, 13.4, 13.41, and again, it was unanimously adopted by the Planning Commission and forwarded on to you as a recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. McElhaney.
And Chairman Goods, if I may be recognized,
You're
please.
recognized.
LaShawn Dock with City Planning, thank you so much. I would like to provide a point of clarification. Councilman Citro asked the question regarding PDs. And regarding the first request from Steve McElhaney, and this is the yards between the residential buildings, it would in fact apply to a PD. And as a matter of fact, Council, you see these on some of the PDs that come before you. That calculation, you may recall, I see Councilman Citro shaking his head, you'll recall that that's on the site plan. And a lot of times, if they cannot meet that separation that is determined by that calculation, then the applicant will request a waiver. But they have to show that calculation, the determination as a result of the calculation, and if they need the waiver, they have to recognize it as a waiver on the PD. So I just wanted to provide that as a point of clarification for you. And I'm available if you have any other questions. Thank you so much, Council.
Mr. Citro, anything else for Mr. Todd?
Thank you, Ms. Todd.
All right, any more questions for the applicant?
I just have a comment, Chairman, if I may. I would imagine that the last one that Mr. Michelini showed regarding the entranceway or the house must face a road would be applied only to lots that are buildable but not in conformity in size rectangular. In other words, they have a zigzag or something. And I would imagine there are some that way. I've seen some here in the past. Is that correct? Am I thinking that the street facing, the entranceway facing the street could be to the side instead of facing the street?
They wouldn't face the side. They would face an interior courtyard, and then the rears of the buildings would face the exterior lot lines. And you're correct that it's typically a smaller lot. If you had a large lot, again, normally you wouldn't want all of the townhouses facing in one direction. You'd have a long span of buildings all facing one side. This helps to break that up architecturally, and it's historically relevant, as in, I'm sure you know from West Tampa and some other areas, where they had a central walk-up entryway, and then the units broke off from there.
Yeah, and this is an assumption on my part that I'm thinking as to how it would fit, so I've got the answer.
All right, sir.
Mr. Chairman.
You recognize?
Just a reminder of council and the public, this is an ordinance being set for first reading consideration. It's a legislative matter, and should this go forward, then it would come back for the second reading and adoption. That would be a public hearing, just to let you know that if the public spoke about it, they would have to have spoken, as they had, some did, during general public comment. There is no additional public comment at this time.
Okay.
And I might, just as in summary, these requests for changes in the code started off a little over 3.5 to 4 years ago, and they were constantly being refined through discussions with the city staff and the Planning Commission to try to figure out where there were glitches in the code and where the streamlining could occur. Then instead of having to file multiple applications for some of these issues, you would file a design exception. Sometimes you filed for a variance, and then sometimes you ended up having to file a PD coming to City Council. These four would eliminate those additional processes that were tying up city staff time. I think that with the design exceptions, for the most part, 95% of them were approved at the staff level, but they did add additional steps to the process, and it became problematic. And then to LaShawn's point about the PDs, I wasn't saying that the PDs excluded it, but you could address it through the PD process, and as she said, seek a waiver for that calculation. And the calculation is very cumbersome. It's very difficult to understand. And depending on what your designs are, you can dramatically affect what happens. So the goal there was to establish a standard and make it easier to begin, from a starting point that everybody understood.
Thank you, Mr. McLean.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions, gentlemen? All right. Anyone want to take a stab at Mr. Maniscalco, Mr. Gainfeld?
Well, no, before we do, I just wanted to chime in. Thank you, Mr. McLean, for your presentation. So I think we've all seen and heard some objections from the community. Davis Island, Ms. Zommerman, Mr. Aberger objected to certain provisions. The Tampa Heights, I saw a letter come in today in regard to the townhouse design standards and the doors not facing the street. I think some of the THAN representatives and Virginia Park representatives either spoke or provided objections to certain of the items. We have wrestled with this and massaged this for the last year or two. And in looking at this, I haven't seen a whole lot of objections to two of the items. The RM24 with the 35 feet I think that's reasonable. All the other structures start out at a threshold of 35 feet, and I don't see why an RM24 would start out at 30 feet. So I don't have a problem with that, and I didn't see any particular objections from the community on that. The other one, and I spoke to Ms. Feely about this yesterday, was the duplex, well, what do they call it? Number of off-street parking spaces. That specifically only relates to duplexes. And I can see where if you have I use the term loosely, duplex, and we require an additional space, where's that space go, who owns it, who maintains it, et cetera. And I think that's a reasonable objection, and again, I didn't see any community objection to that issue. So with that, I cannot support first reading on this entire ordinance for those reasons, because I only support 2 out of the, I think there's 4 total out of the 4. If it's council's desire to go back and amend this and just let those 2 go forward, striking the other 2, then I'm comfortable with it, or, that's just my 2 cents. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else? All right. So, looking at Mr. Dingfeld's recommendations, any objections to his recommendation?
Mr. Chairman?
You reckon?
If I can, what is before you today is that ordinance in its present form. That's what's on the agenda. Unless there's another motion that's made relative to this.
I guess what I'll do, Mr. Shelby, sorry to cut you off, but I hear where you're going, is I'll go ahead and make a motion directing staff to bring this back in 2 weeks, or as soon as possible, striking, well, let me put it this way, only leaving those 2 items, the RM24 35-foot height item and the duplex parking, off-street parking space item, and striking the rest, and bring that ordinance back for first reading consideration. So that would be my motion, as opposed to the ordinance as it's being presented today. Is that where you're going, Mr. Shelby?
I just wanted to know where council was going. If that motion is seconded, that motion would be in order if there's a discussion on that motion, if that's council's decision. Otherwise, you have the ordinance as presented to you.
Right.
Mr. Dingfeld has put a motion on the floor. You have a second? Second by Mr. Carlson. Let's take a roll call with us.
Is there any discussion on the motion?
Any discussion on the motion?
Just a little more discussion on the motion. Mr. McElhaney and Mr. Lum have put a lot of time and effort into this. This never started at the staff level. It started at the builder developer level, and that's fine, because at the time that's what our code allowed for, and that's the way it's always been done. That's now changed, but more importantly, the community, the neighborhood associations, and the a lot of very intelligent people have reviewed this and have objected to several of the provisions. And I think that we're here, I think that should be a very, very important part of our consideration.
All right, motion on the floor for 2-week continuance. Mr. Carlson?
Actually, that was a motion. That wasn't a motion to continue. It was actually a motion.
Is a motion to direct staff to revise the ordinance, striking 2, leaving 2, and bringing it back in first 2 weeks or as soon as possible.
All right, Mr. Carlson has seconded it. Any further discussion? All right, now I'll put roll call.
Vieira.
No.
Citro.
No.
Miranda.
No.
Dingfelder.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Maniscalco.
No.
And Goods.
No.
Motion failed with Vieira, Citro, Miranda, Maniscalco, and Goods voting no.
All right, motion failed. We'll go back to the item. Mr. Maniscalco?
I'll just read the ordinance as it's written. I have an ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, ordinance of the City of Tampa, Florida, relating to a privately initiated text amendment, making revisions to the City of Tampa Code of Ordinances, Chapter 27, Zoning and Land Development, amending Section 27-156, Official Schedule of District Regulations, amending Section 27-162, Yards Between Residential Buildings, amending Section 27-282.10 multifamily townhouse style design standards, amending section 27-283.7, number of off-street parking spaces, providing for repeal of all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith, providing severability, providing an effective date.
Second by Mr. Vieira, roll call.
Miranda,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
No.
Carlson,
No.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Viera, Citro,
Yes.
and Goode.
Yes.
Motion carried with Dingfelder and Carlson voting no. Second reading and adoption will be held on March 3rd, 2022 at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you very much, council, for your time and attention.
All right, gentlemen, so we can run through these consent agenda items. I think Mr. Citro, you're up first, sir.
Very much, Mr. Chair.
5 through 9.
I'm going to move items 5 through 9.
Second.
Second by Mr. Maniscalco, roll call.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Viera,
Yes.
and Goode.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Mr. Maniscalco, Parks and Recreation, 10 through 19, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to move items 10 through 19.
Question on that.
Question on the motion, Mr. Davis, you're recognized.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited. Item 10, the Kiwanis Club of Tampa wants to install a storybook, story walk opportunity at Al Lopez Park, where little kids, as they're walking perhaps with their families, can read page by page of a storybook, which I thought was real cute. I also thought about it and suggested to staff that, especially in light of the lot of Hispanic population over on that side of town, especially, that they make sure that they go back and forth with English and Spanish. And Kiwanis, I think they thought that was a good idea, and that's what they're going to do. So anyway, just wanted to give that shout out to Kiwanis. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Maniscalco did move. I think Mr. Miranda seconded, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Viera,
Yes.
Citro, and Goode.
Yes.
The motion carried unanimously with Citro being absent at vote.
All right. We have Public Works, Mr. Dingfelder. We're going to exclude 20, 21, 22, and 23. So if you can move items 24 through 33, that'd be fun, sir.
So moved, 24
Second.
through 33. And we'll discuss, for anybody who's watching, we'll be discussing items 20 through 23 later in the meeting.
All right, have a second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Miranda. Roll call.
Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Viera,
Yes.
Citro, Miranda,
Yes.
and Goode.
Yes,
Motion carried unanimously with Citro being absent at vote.
Mr. Chair.
you're recognized, sir.
In the next area, I would like to separately vote on 37 and 38. No offense to the individual involved. I just don't agree with having long-term consulting contracts like that.
All right,
I
that
believe
is going to be,
30
that was pulled, sir. That's going to be
Mr. Chairman,
discussed.
I'm sorry. Forgive me, Martin Shelby.
Yes, sir.
Sorry to interrupt. I believe, Mr. Chairman, you had pulled 36,
Yes, sir.
37, and 38?
I've already pulled those, sir. Yes, sir.
Great, thank you.
All right, so moving right along, we have Mr. Miranda. If
Item
you
37, 30 are pulled. So I would move 34 through 44, excluding 37 and 38.
Second.
36.
And Mr. Chairman,
You recognize Mr. Shelby?
did you also pull number 36, sir? I just want to be
36
clear
was
on that.
pulled, 36 was pulled,
All right,
37, 38.
36 also, item, made it to it again, 34 through 44, where 36, 37, 38 being pulled.
Second.
Second by Mr. Maniscalco. All in favor? I mean,
Aye.
correction, roll call. Roll call.
Viera,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
and Goode.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
All right.
Mr.
Charles?
Chairman. Yeah, and the next one, I need to recuse myself from items 49, 50, 51, and 52. The company by whom I'm retained has a client that may be related to an organization that has an interest in this matter, and I'm abstaining to avoid the appearance of a conflict of interest. We don't work directly with this organization, but a related organization, and abundance of caution, I would like to recuse myself from those. So could I just move 45, 4 through 48. And then 53 through
64?
Yep.
64?
53 through 64.
Second.
All right, Mr. Maniscalco has moved it. Roll call?
Citro,
Yes.
Viera,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
and Goode.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Mr. Vieira?
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
I think
Quick
Mr.
question.
Maniscalco had his hand
No,
first.
no, go ahead. I was gonna move the items that
All right, okay.
you didn't vote on.
Mr. Dingfelder, you recognize, yeah?
You might be saying the same thing I was wondering about, 37, 38?
No.
Okay, when are we doing
We're gonna do
those?
that after.
49, 50, 51, and 52.
Yeah, we're gonna do that after, we'll bring those back.
This afternoon or
No, no,
this morning?
right after we get through with the consent, we're gonna bring those right up.
Okay.
Ms. Maniscalco, Vice Chair, Mr. Vieira, but you wanted to do
Oh,
it?
no, no, go ahead.
On the,
Yeah, move 49, 50, 51, and 52.
so
Yes.
moved.
Second.
Second by Mr. Maniscalco, roll call.
Miranda,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Viera,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
and Goode.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously with Carlson
Oh,
abstaining.
All right. Mr. Vieira, Chair of the Transportation Committee, 65 through 68.
Yes, sir, I move items 65 through 68.
Second.
Second by Mr. Miranda, roll call.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Viera,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
and Goode.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
That concludes all the consent agenda items. We're gonna go back to the ones that were pulled. We'll go back to item number 36.
Why was it pulled?
I pulled that.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, I'll take the gavel if you want to discuss item 36.
Yes. Staff present for that?
Yes,
All
sir.
right. Mr. Shelby, you recognize?
Mr. Chairman, just a reminder, council, I know it's, we're approaching the lunch hour, just to remind you that we just do have a couple of second readings and one hearing to vacate, just so the council's aware.
We're aware. Thank you, sir. All right, Ms. Dingle, you have the gavel, sir?
Yes.
All right. I pulled item number 36. To me, this is a very serious appointment that was the mayor is asking us to vote on today. I think they've heard the recommendation of this council that now that the appointees, especially these high-level ranking positions, are going around meeting with council members before they're approved and appointed by this council per the charter, which that has not been happening in previous administration, what have you. But I think if we're going to do what's right and do the rules, council should be knowing who the mayor is wanting to anoint these positions, so we can have our chance to be able to talk with them. They can understand our concerns, our needs, and where we think the city should go as well. So I see the administration has heard that. I did meet with this young lady, the new administrator for Development and Economic Opportunities. I don't know if all councilmen did meet with her, but I was heard that she did make some rounds.
I met with her.
Mr. Miranda, you met with her, sir?
Yes.
Mr. Maniscalco met with her, Dingfelder, okay? Mr. Carl, did you have a chance to meet with her, sir?
I was out of town, but
Town?
I saw her resume, and I'm
Okay.
very impressed with that. Look forward to working with her. If I could, if you look at the economic numbers of the city in the last 10 years, we didn't do very well. And so we have to change the way we address economic development. We need to help support real estate development, but it can't be our only focus like it has been in the past. We've got to change economic development to get into the 21st century. And so I look forward to working with her on that. Thank you.
Mr. Vieira, did you have a chance to meet with her?
Yes, sir, very briefly downstairs, not extensively, but obviously look forward to supporting this.
Can we put her picture back on the screen, please, before we have the chief scan? Thank you. I was very impressed with her resume, gentlemen, and I had almost an hour's conversation with her. Very impressed that she is very knowledgeable in CRA business. Very knowledgeable. And if you look at her resume over in Lakeland, what they're doing and how she revamped that program over there, I think she'll be able to have a helping hand with maybe our CRA issues as well. We talked extensively about pre-developed. We talked about, some of her accolades with her curb on the street, which I always talk about. I can't build a house on the street and the rest of the houses on the street look like garbage. And understanding what rehab is about, she understands that, and I'm really excited that we're looking at realm, knowing that the housing crisis we have, because I always say, you have the housing stock. but we have to take care of what we have to keep it moving. So I'm very impressed with the nomination that the mayor has committed with to send forth with her. I'll let her have a few words unless any other council members have anything to say.
Mr. Chair, I did.
You recognize Mr. Citro?
Not yet.
No, he's right. He took the gavel.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I would like to say that I have met with this woman. She is very knowledgeable. Her resume is excellent, and she was actually answering questions before I asked them. I'm looking forward to working with her, and she will be a great addition to our family.
Thank you, Mr. Citro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Maniscalco.
Thank you very much, and echoing many comments already said, spoken. We met the other day, very, very impressed, very impressive resume. I think we're very, very lucky to have her as part of the City of Tampa family, especially now during these very exciting and busy times. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco. Anybody else? Mr. Miranda.
I also met with this young person, a young lady, and what impressed me the most wasn't the resume, and it was the look in the face of let's get to work and let's get things done. When you read a resume, you just read a resume. I mean, resumes can be docked up to make it look real fancy, real great, real wonderful. But when you meet the person that matches the resume and supersedes the resume by looking at you right in the eye, not veering left or right, this person is the right person for this job.
Thank you, Mr. Miranda. Anybody else? Okay, Ms. Travis or Mr. Bennett, would you like to add anything before we entertain a motion?
Well, good morning, Council. It's a pleasure to be before you. I look forward to meeting with you, Councilman Carlson, soon. And to all the council members, I am extremely excited to be back in Tampa in the time that we have unprecedented growth and development happening. But I look forward to working with each of you on ensuring that the citizens of Tampa and the businesses in Tampa have a strong, successful future ahead of us, and that we plan well for our community. So look forward to working with you, and it's a pleasure to be with you this morning.
All right, excellent. Mr. Bennett, did you want to say anything?
No, I just wanted to formally welcome Nicole as well to council, and on behalf of the administration, the things that I heard just now, back to Tampa family, the vision that she brings to the city, working with council and the administration, and most importantly, the community, are very exciting times ahead. So we're very fortunate to have her. So thank you.
Okay. And I'll take the last word on this. In regard to process, Mr. Chairman, I commend you and Mr. Bennett on improving the process, because at the end of the day, under the charter, council does have a vote on all senior administrators. And the vote used to be a little bit more meaningless, because we were less a part of the process. But now you and Mr. Bennett have worked out a better process where it's more inclusive with council, and we appreciate it greatly. In regard to Ms. Travis, I did have the opportunity to chat with her a couple of times over the last week or two. She has a positive, as Mr. Miranda said, she has a positive can-do attitude. And she started her government career, I think, here at City of Tampa. So we got her started. Lakeland continued that training, and now we're glad to have her back. So with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Second. Move for the...
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Miranda, second by Mr. Citro. Roll call vote.
Citro?
And that's to approve. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes.
Miranda?
Yes.
Dingfelder?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Maniscalco?
Yes.
Vieira? And Goods?
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you, Council.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The
All right, gavel's
to you.
back. Okay, we have item 37 and 38. They're together item. I know I had pulled it, wanted a little bit more information on this as well. Mr. Carlson, information. I guess we'll bring the chief of staff back. Talk to us about 37 and 38, and council members can ask questions.
All right, good morning again. John Bennett, Chief of Staff. As the chairman mentioned, and by the SIRE item, as well as a memorandum submitted to you, we're basically bringing a request to retain Mr. Spearman until such time we finish the selection process for a new procurement purchasing director. The notification or the solicitation for a nationwide search has already begun. HR has pushed that out. It'll be open till filled. but this is just a way for us to bridge the gap in a department that is a little bit short-handed on talent because of positions that have gone to other jurisdictions based on their performances. And it just seems to be good continuity of government, good continuity of business. There's a boilerplate contract in place that has been used for other positions of similar nature over the years of my experience. But obviously the goal is really just to bridge the gap during the selection process and then have the knowledge transfer of this, what you have seen personally as an award-winning department, but also taking all the previous knowledge that we've done in the city and bringing that into a progressive opportunities as it relates to all the things that have come before you and this administration over the last 2.5 years. So again, this is really a bridging mechanism to go through the selection process in a very elongated nationwide search to get somebody very talented. And again, to have that continuity of government on a very high procurement jurisdiction like Tampa.
You recognize, sir?
Chief Bennett, I don't have the contract in front of me, but what I recollect is that after 6 months or a year, it has an escalator that goes up for like the second year, third year. If I'm wrong, apologize. I agree with you 100%. We should have continuity of service and make sure there's a great handoff. But is there something in this approval that says definitively that when the new person comes in that this will end? My only concern is that it looked like it extended out beyond that point.
Understood. No, this contract would not be in effect once the new director took office and was confirmed by council.
And it says that in the contract?
No, I don't believe it explicitly says that. What it says is that the boilerplate contract is 2 years with, I believe, 3 one-year extensions, but it has a 30-day cancellation from either party, either the city or the employee or the contractor, based on that. But that's the spirit of what we're doing. And, at this point, that's my guarantee to council is that once we make the selection process, it would be irresponsible, redundant of us to have somebody paid at that level and a director. The whole contract's built around the director's salary and benefit package, and I would need those finances for the new position.
You recognize, Mr. Miranda?
Thank you. And excuse me, if I may, and really 38 is the one that controls 37, because in 37, part of that agreement, and correct me if I'm incorrect, it says to annual appropriation for services. So 38 is a budget that gives the money to 37. So we would have every year, if it was for a year, if it was going into the second year, it would come for us for appropriation to fund that position. Am I correct, Mr. Chief of Staff?
Councilman Miranda, this is Morris Massey in the legal department. You're correct. The budget resolution is for a finite amount, so that if this was extended for a further term, we'd have to come back to you with a budget resolution for additional money. So that in that way, in that respect, the term of that agreement is controlled.
You recognize again, sir?
Chief Bennett, I wish the contract was more explicit and didn't go on to future years, but with your commitment and the point that Councilman Miranda said, I will support it. I want to be supportive of this individual in particular. Thank you.
Mr. Massey, I have a question for Mr. Massey.
Yes, sir.
I know when people leave their positions, a charter says 90 days, but I have a contract here, so within that frame, we should have somebody in place 90 days, but a lot of times we're going over the 90-day process. So when we have this contract here, that's what's confusing to me. With the selection process, I guess going back to Mr. Bennett, do we figure that within this 90-day time frame, we will have somebody looking to fill that spot, or we're still going to be looking for extension on after the 90-day process? Because I know a lot of these positions, we've gone past the 90-day process.
Right. Yeah, well, I don't want to speak to the legal part, but I'll speak to the HR part, is that when you're selecting or you're doing a nationwide search on somebody, to get the right fit, the right competency, chemistry for the city of Tampa going forward, I can't guarantee that it'll be 90 days. But as I mentioned, the solicitation is out. I've already been guiding talent through the professional organizations to HR, and I have, no reason not to pursue this as fast as possible. But again, just trying to keep the organization stable in the meantime.
I would concur with stabilization.
Councilman, relative to the 90-day time frame, I think that comes from the charter where when a senior staff level is appointed, where the administration is supposed to bring that name to you within 90 days. So this is a continuation of Mr. Spearman's role. So I think
that's where the interpretation gets gray there. Everyone interprets that a little bit differently, you know. So that might be a thing, Michelle. We need to clean that up a little bit because sometimes that gets kind of confusing with that 90-day mark of saying person appointment to now when they get appointed to bring the council within that 90 days. So I think it's an interpretation point to me. But very well though. All right. Any other questions, Mr. Dingfelder? You recognize?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm okay. I'm not only okay with 3738. I wanted to speak to Mr. Spearman. I think Greg and I started about the same time back in 2003, 2004.
Old time marching.
Old timers, and he's done a great job. We don't always agree, but nobody always agrees. But he's professional. He's built a great team, maintained a great team in purchasing. He's responsive, and that team has won purchasing awards year after year. I didn't realize he was on the verge of, quote, retirement, and so of course we wish him well in his retirement. But in the meantime, he's been kind enough to step up and say, okay, I'll fill the gap until you can find a replacement. And
we need that.
You know, with all of that, I totally support 3738, and eventually we'll give Mr. Spearman a commendation for his good work.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, motion to move.
John, move 3738.
Second.
Mr. Miranda has moved it. Second by Mr. Dingfelder. Roll call.
Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco, Vieira, Citro,
Yes.
Miranda, Dingfelder,
Yes.
and Good.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
All right, gentlemen, moving right along. We'll get to we'll open the hearings, huh?
Mr. Chairman,
What number?
69.
Okay, I'm sorry, 69. I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair, if I may?
You recognize, sir?
Thank you, sir. I just, again, wanted to remind City Council, I have a 4 o'clock investiture where the gentleman who's going to be sworn in is a friend. I'm friends with his family. I'd hate to miss this, and I know we have this water issue coming up. I just don't know if beginning at 1:30, again, I just want to remind council as a matter of due diligence of that.
Everybody got to do what they got to do, Mr.
Chair.
Vieira, you know, if, you know.
And I will be also at that vestiture too, so.
Everybody got to do what they got to do, sir. Everybody's their own person, so we go with what we got, you know. If it don't go, then we bring it on back and we get it done again. All right, item number 69. But thank both of you gentlemen for letting us know. I didn't receive the memos on that.
I'll move item 69.
Second.
Set for public hearing March 17th, 1:30 p.m.
Okay, Mr. Dingfelder's moved it. Mr. Maniscalco, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted.
Move to open public hearings 70 through 76.
Mr. Maniscalco, open it. Mr. Miranda, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted.
Just point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Shelby, in regard to that reconsideration issue that I brought up earlier.
Okay.
What?
Do it now.
Okay,
Do it now.
Mr. Chairman. So I can't remember, was it a week or two ago, we passed on second reading the noise ordinance.
Right.
And with lots of controversy, I think originally it was my understanding the only reason we were tweaking it was to address the channel side issue and changing the standards and the measurement for channel side. By the time it evolved through whatever means or process, it changed and it included other parts of town, and especially we got a lot of pushback from Ybor City. Now I recognize for whatever reason that there is a delay in implementation for 6 months, and there was also an informal agreement with council that within 3 months we would come back and revisit it to see what we needed to do about it. I've continued, and I imagine you guys have as well, to received concerns and objections that we shouldn't have even done that much. And if we're gonna come back in 3 months, why don't we just strike what we did a week or two ago? It's not being implemented now anyway. Come back at that 3-month point, recraft that ordinance the way it needs to be or should be, and then have it be implemented 3 months later. So instead of a 6-month delay, I don't think there's any statutory requirement for a 6-month delay, but I can be corrected by legal if that's the case. But anyway, so I was on the prevailing side of that motion, and with that, I think I have the right to move to reconsider the vote and to repeal or rescind or repeal, whatever is more appropriate, Ms. Shelby, the noise ordinance that we adopted.
Let's go Vieira, Miranda, and we'll go Citro, Carlson.
Well, if I can, Council, from a procedural standpoint, a motion to reconsider would actually be, whether council wants to even reconsider it, not to talk about the merits of it, but whether it wants to reconsider. So that's the motion you're raising. There hasn't been a second yet, but before you do that, let me just put it in the context of what you are seeking to do. Is you're seeking to revisit what is in fact an ordinance that was adopted, I believe, on second reading. Now, I don't know, with the legal department, I saw Mr. Massey upstairs, and perhaps he can chime in and join in the discussion on this, but what it appears is normally the process under Florida statutes, an ordinance has to be promulgated a certain way, and upon the signing by the mayor becomes law. So the status of this might be right now that this has been passed, duly enacted, perhaps granted with an effective date down the road. So frankly, council, the question is whether you can actually entertain a motion to reconsider. If council wants to have other different ways of dealing with this, for instance, when it came back in 3 months, you were talking about motions to amend or motions to supersede and the like. That might be the process, because in order to change your decision, you have to follow certain Florida statutes, and I believe Mr. Massey, I know, is well versed in this as well, and maybe he would want to.
So let me inject before we hear from Mr. Massey. So our rules state, and you and I talked about this about a week ago, not in specifics, but I mentioned that I mentioned generally that I wanted to do a motion to reconsider, but our rules state that we do that at the next regular meeting, and that's why I waited, I guess it's been 2 weeks, to do that. And so here I am doing that. In the meantime, you're saying that it might have been signed into law by the mayor, and I understand that that's the process. So perhaps my motion for reconsideration is also a motion to repeal what we've done, or a motion to direct legal staff to draft an ordinance that would repeal what we did 2 weeks ago, and take it back to the drawing board. In another 2 months or so, we'd have the workshop and revisit it, and then we could make it, that next ordinance, we could make effective 3 months later. So anyway, I understand what you're saying, Mr. Shelby. If it's already in fact been signed into law, then my motion, sort of in addition to being reconsideration, would be to direct legal staff to draft a motion to repeal, whichever is procedurally appropriate.
Madam Deputy Clerk, has the ordinance been signed by the mayor? So Alderman Sines, I remember I signed it. I didn't see her signature as yet when I signed it, so she normally signs it after me. So. Okay, so it's been signed.
Mr. Shelby's point, I do believe that if it's been signed into law, that the appropriate thing would be for you to make a motion for us, if that's council's desire, to pass an ordinance repealing what was just passed. So.
All right. All right, so I'll modify, just so we have something on the floor, Mr. Vieira, I'll modify my motion based upon legal opinion just now to be a motion to repeal that noise ordinance. My intent is still to help Channelside, because that was the original intent, but just do it through a different step-by-step process.
And if I may, I'll actually second that if I may. I was not here for that vote, and I would have voted no. And here's why, and this is why I'm seconding it. Whatever legally consistent, proper process is here, I think that to, pass a noise ordinance when there's so much outcry on it, and then to come back 2 months and go, hey, listen, in 2 months we'll potentially look at it again or reconsider, and then you're making all these businesses in an area that has been hammered over the last year and a half, hire attorneys and do their due diligence as responsible business owners want to do, and then go, okay, well, we're going to look at it again in 2 months. I would have respectfully voted no on that, so that's why I'll second that if I may.
Thank you.
You recognize, Mr.
Let me just say this, it's any ordinance that we pass, no matter what subject matter, it can be repealed the day after you pass it, once the mayor signs it. That's fact. And it's got to be done by the prevailing side, so Mr. Dingfelder is right there. But I'm gonna vote no to change the ordinance, because then you'll have no ordinance on noise. You don't have this one, you don't have the one you had before, you have 0 ordinances. So it's going to exacerbate the problem even further. However, my objection is that to the ordinance, or to change it, is that 50 years ago, you had sound systems that were heard 25, 30 feet away, that's it. Now you have sound systems that are super costly, because they can propel the noise 100 yards, 200 yards, and when these instrument starts, the noise that's carried now is much greater than when I was a young boy. So now you have the rooftops and the same instruments with all these new type of electronic equipment that is creating the problem. It's not the musician, it's just not the people with the music of the band, not the height of the building. It is the vast amount of energy going out from the speakers that's creating the problem. So I respectfully, when it comes up, I'll vote no for changing. Thank you.
Just real quickly to Mr. Miranda's question.
Mr. Velez, hold on, Ms. Velez jumped in real quick. She's the attorney who wrote it.
Yes.
We'll get right to you, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Susan Johnson Velez, Legal Department. I did just want to remind the council that immediately after adopting the noise ordinance amendments on second reading, you did instruct staff to do a series of community outreach meetings with different stakeholders, which are scheduled at this point, and to come back to you on your April 28th workshop with recommendations to tweak the ordinance. And I think Mr. Carlson may be jumping into, he was the maker of the motion to adopt the amendments, and the idea was that the non-controversial items in there could go ahead and be adopted, and the clock start running on those for effective date while we were coming back or preparing to make recommendations to tweak the ordinance. And so I'm not sure, I'll let Mr. Carlson maybe
I'm going to go with Mr. Dingfelder, because I'm going to go to Mr. Dingfelder. He wants to answer Mr. Miranda's question. Then we'll go Carlson, then we'll go to Citro.
Mr. Miranda, the only thing I want to get clarification on what you said. When I speak to repeal, I'm only saying repeal what we did, and staff would craft the language that would make sure that the original noise ordinance that was in place 2 weeks ago would come back, and we can do that, and they can do that, and that would be my intent. I wouldn't want to eviscerate and eliminate the entire noise ordinance. We would just go back to where we were 2 weeks ago, and then we could come back April 28th and revisit all of that without having this interim step. But I just wanted to clarify, and if Susan, would you confirm that we can do that with my motion? My motion would be to.
Well, all due respect, I think what Mr. Miranda was saying, if we repeal what we've done,
right,
he's saying there will be no ordinance on the books.
Right, but I disagree with that legally, and I think we can tell.
Okay.
We would direct staff to put back on the books where we were 2 weeks ago. Ms. Johnson-Velez?
Yes, Susan Johnson-Velez, Legal Department. There is a noise ordinance on the books, and it is still remaining in effect. But because the effective date of the ordinance that you adopted 2 weeks ago is not for another 6 months, the ordinance that's on the books today is still on the books, unchanged. And so there are no changes to it. They haven't gone into effect yet.
Oh, here it is. Okay.
Okay, I think we're gonna go to Mr. Carlson and Mr. Citro.
Okay. Okay.
Somebody else is talking?
Could you mute, whoever's talking, if you're not on this item, could you mute your, devices, please?
Just to remind everybody where we were when we approved this, we were at second reading, and the community has been for the 3 years I've been on council demanding that we do something. And after all the hearings and everything, then some new objections came up, and I made the motion, I think, to move it forward. But then I made a second motion that we should do like Ms. Johnson-Velez said, would be that we would have public meetings with Ybor in particular. And I think we all, because we voted for that, we had the intent that there would be changes made. The problem is that, as we were sitting a couple weeks ago, if we had rejected it and gone back to the drawing board, it would have taken months and months, and the community feels like everybody had lots of chance to add their thoughts into it. Clearly, we need to add some additional exceptions. We don't want to take out all the music venues in Ybor City. We need to figure out what is the right language. We also last time talked about the category of performing arts centers and making sure that we don't adversely affect them. But that would come about through these public meetings. I did hear some concerns in the community in Ybor that people's perception is these meetings are going to be about presenting to them what the ordinance says instead of listening to the changes that need to be done. And so I hope in the public meetings that we will hear the specific changes so we can help folks. But also, Ms. Johnson-Velez, tell me if I'm wrong, this applies to amplified noise after midnight outdoors. And so if somebody has a courtyard after midnight, they can, as I understood it, they could play acoustical music, right? They just can't amplify the acoustical music. So we're not asking people to shut down after midnight. We're not, a bar that has an inside and outside, they both can stay open. The outside can stay open. They just can't have amplified noise outside. You can even still have music, but not amplified music. But we set it up, we all voted in addition to the ordinance to have a hearing where we would listen directly to the community and try to tweak it so that we can answer those questions while protecting the rest of the community at the same time. Thank you.
Mr. Carlson, on that note, and I'm gonna go Citro. I did see the flyer that went out. Got some calls on the flyer, and I was gonna make a call to you today in reference to that. I don't like the fact that we're saying that we're gonna just register certain people to be on it. If it's going to be an issue of legislative matter, it should be open to the public. There shouldn't be any restraints on that. It's open to the public. Let us hear their concerns versus you only so many people can pre-register. I don't agree with that concept. The concept was to look at Ms. McGregor and the police department's SEPTEP team and open us up to the community so we can hear what the community had to say so we can craft a great ordinance, but not limit it to just a pre-registration. So I was going to call you on that because I'm not in favor of that at all, and that wasn't what we discussed, because I clearly said I wanted Ms. McGregor involved in that police SEPTEP team because they deal with the businesses, of telling them how to regulate and do certain safety measures, and the engagement with the neighborhood partnerships. So I'm not in favor of the pre-registration. Mr. Citro, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. This discussion started with former council people.
Yeah.
And it became a burden on us to ask the question, are you going to have amplified music at your bar or your establishment that was encroaching into the neighborhoods? I got reprimanded time after time by some legal saying you can't ask that question. So it started way before we got Parks and Recreation. I have heard, believe me, like the rest of us, have heard of some disdain, some dislike for this ordinance. However, with due respect, Councilman Dingfelder, it's semantics. We're going to have a meeting in 3 months. Regardless of whether we repeal anything we do today, we are going to have a meeting in 3 months to see how we can tweak this. I'm sorry, Mr. Dingfelder, Councilman Dingfelder, I can't vote yes on this. It's semantics. We're going to look into this. We're going to listen to public comment, and we're going to make changes to it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And my last comment before we move on. is that when you talk about the amplified sound, when people call me to want to visit here, when people go to our convention centers at night, they want to party afterwards. We have to know where that area is at. And one of the main areas when people look, and we in our convention bureau sends out stuff, it's about our Ybor hub. And I'm sorry, I understand about amplified sound in neighborhoods at a certain time. I get that. But Ybor is an entertainment district. I don't care how you look at it. You have people who work there, who DJ, that's their living. You have people who walk the streets to hear where the best music's at. So amplified sound in Ybor, we have to look at that, because I can't support anything that we're going to shut down music in Ybor at a 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock, because people don't leave Ybor till 3 o'clock. And then some go to Amici's to go eat pizza. So I'm just saying, we have to look at all things. And Ms. John, I know you're working hard. I know we're beating you, but I know you're working hard. But we just got to make sure we get it right. And again, I respect Mr. Dingfelder, but I think I supported the ordinance last time because, and I said that on record, I said, if nothing is going to be enacted, I can support coming back in the 90-day period before a 6-month period. I was specific because I was not going to support it at first, because I didn't want to make sure that nothing would hurt employees or those businesses in those entertainment districts. So that's just my pet peeve on it, making sure that we got good outreach, not holding restraints back on the people. Yes, I know we have some COVID issues, but people are coming out. This is the top topic, and we need to make sure that we're letting them be engaged in the process. Anyone else? And we're going to plan for a landing.
Very quick, thank you, Chairman Dingfelder, Councilman Dingfelder. Mr. Chair, you are correct. But there are even parts in certain areas of this city that if we do not get the verbiage correct, somebody across the street who is living whose business is next to somebody's residential home, and they say, well, across the street you let them do it, how come I can't do it? We need to make sure. Hence the reason why we need to come back in 90 days and make sure that it's solid. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You recognize, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Citro, I do agree with you. You know, it might be semantics. Why are we doing this now as opposed to later? Sometimes there's such a thing as buyer's remorse. And frankly, I remember right at the end of that meeting, and it's like, I don't like this ordinance, but in the spirit of compromise, blah, blah, blah. But I think we sent the wrong message. And I think we can fix that and send the right message by supporting this motion today, backing up 2 weeks, repealing what we did, and then in April, the end of April, coming back and fixing it the way we all really want it to. Without any stress, without any urgency or anything else. And so anyway, I want to return that Ford Pinto that I voted on.
Mr. Brett?
Some of them are still running.
Yeah.
Ms. Velez, if I may, right now we have one noise ordinance, correct? You can't have two of them, you can only have one. Which one do we have in force? The one the mayor signed a couple of days ago, or the one that you can't have? This one supersedes the other one, I would imagine. You can't have two ordinances at the same time. So now if we sunset this ordinance, we have no noise ordinance. And
she wants to give you the answer.
I want something in the books in the interim to, you know, be fair to everyone. So if this can wait as long as it takes you to have this ordinance in place until we can have another ordinance to look at, I'm fine with that. But I'm not going to leave the city blank with no ordinance at all. That's what we're doing. If we sunset this ordinance, there is no ordinance. I would imagine. Maybe I'm wrong.
Ms. Velez?
Susan Johnson Velez, Legal Department. Councilman Miranda, there is a noise ordinance in place, and the ordinance that you adopted 2 weeks ago barely makes amendments to 4 separate sections of the existing noise ordinance. And so we do have a noise ordinance in place. It would remain in place without those amendments if you repeal that ordinance. I will say too, though, that because of the 6-month delay in the effective date, there really is no effect of those amendments even right now. And I feel like I should also mention that there's been a lot of confusion about the noise ordinance, what's changed, what hasn't, what's in effect now. And my fear is with adopting another ordinance repealing that it will add to an already confused population in the city of Tampa. So, given that these amendments don't take place for another, or don't take effect for another 6 months, it might be best to just maintain the status quo at this point and let us come back to you in April with those recommendations with a view towards very quickly passing some tweaks to the ordinance that you amended 2 weeks ago.
All right. Dingfelder?
All right, I got a motion, there's a second, let's do it.
All right, motion by Mr. Dingfelder, I think it was second by who? Mr. Vieira? All right, roll call.
Citro.
No.
Miranda.
No.
Dingfelder.
Yes.
Carlson.
No.
Maniscalco. Vieira. And Goods.
Yes.
Motion carried with Citro, Miranda, and Carlson voting no.
If I could ask Ms. Johnson-Velez, what would be, is there another motion in order, or what would be the direction that council would give, or what is the legal department's recommendation as to where we go from here?
Audio.
Can't hear you. Sorry, Ms. Velez.
Sorry, Susan Johnson Velez, Legal Department. There was a prior motion that directed staff to meet with the community to come back in April, at your April workshop, with recommendations to tweak the ordinance that was adopted. And so I guess we need a motion directing us with what you would like us to do at this point to refine the recommendations that on which the ordinance that you just, asked to be repealed, how that would be modified.
I would, Councilman, sir.
You recognize?
Councilman Dingfelder may want to make another motion about process, but since the notices went out about the public meetings already, so as not to confuse the public more, my suggestion would be that we just modify that original motion to not get feedback about a specific ordinance, but to get feedback about writing an ordinance, unless you have a straw man at that time. So I would just move that we modify the request for public engagement on this issue to discuss the potential language for a new ordinance related to noise.
Second.
And I'm sorry.
Does that answer what you need?
Susan Johnson Velez, Legal Department. I guess I would ask for a little bit more specificity, because the ordinance amendment that was adopted had, 4 specific things, particularly the elimination of the 5-minute warning, the outdoor amplified sound regulations, and there were definitions in there as well. And I'm not sure if council would like us to consider other changes, or if you would like it to be as narrow as what was previously in the ordinance amendment.
I guess the question is, do we have time for a workshop or a staff discussion prior to when the first meeting is scheduled, so that we can discuss language, like straw man language that you could propose, right?
The first meeting, as my understanding, is scheduled for February 15th.
First community meeting?
Yes, that's correct.
So the question is, what is she going to present to get feedback on?
I don't think that matter of presenting. I believe that the community engagement is to see what the community's concerns and complaints are as it relates to the business district, as it relates to the community, so they can get that feedback, so we can craft something, so we can kind of get close to everybody. We're never going to be right there 100%.
Mr. Chairman, if I can, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Vieira, I'm sorry.
If Councilman Carlson wants to go, I don't want to interrupt.
Ms. Carlson?
You sure? What I was going to say, if I may, for purposes of procedure, this is something that may have come as a surprise to staff. I didn't anticipate voting on this right now. Maybe we could make motions to define this at the end of council when folks have had the time to meet with staff, have a quick phone call during lunch, et cetera. Just a thought, so that we don't process it publicly.
And if I can, counsel, if I can, just so the public is aware, your vote today did not repeal anything. So as we sit now, the process still has to go through the process of repealing an ordinance, which would mean bringing back the language, having it at first reading consideration, have it then come back and be advertised for a public hearing, and come back for a second reading and a public hearing, at which time the public would have the opportunity to speak to the issue of the repeal before you actually get to the point where you actually have to go back to whatever the original ordinance would be. So the public should be aware that this is and that's why I wanted to get, and I believe Councilman Vieira has an excellent suggestion to be able to hold this till later in the meeting to be able to find out the process, because that is what it's going to take to be able to start this ball rolling backwards or uphill, or wherever you want to put it.
Now, Mr. Shelby, council members can get their thoughts together, and we're going to go ahead and recess and be back here at 1:30. Thank you, Mr. Velez.